The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
And welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. So thrilled and excited to be able to be here with you today. We're going to be with you live for the next 3 hours talking about autism, and in particular about ABA. And if that sounds like a big fat snooze to you, then I'm so glad you're here, because it's not. It's exciting. And here's why it's exciting. Because we know that ABA is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism, and it is effective. And it's effective for all of our kids, which is very exciting. If you are a parent, teacher, or a practitioner of ABA, then I know you, like me, want to be a really strong member on a team for a child who is affected by autism. And we want to help you to do that. I want to help you by connecting you with a world of experts, people who can clarify different tools for you, because that's really what this is. We're building a toolkit so that we can help our children. Our kids are all different. They all come to us in different places on the spectrum. They have different skill sets. They have different skill deficits. We want to help them to progress to whatever their fullest potential is, right? Isn't that really what we want? And ABA it's the only scientifically proven tool that really can get us there. But again, it's a toolkit, and you got to figure out which tool to use when and how to apply it with your individual child. It's really a creative art. So it is exciting, and especially when we see it start to work with a specific child where they're getting things and they're building their knowledge, building their skill set. Let me just tell you, that's the most exciting thing there is. So we're going to be talking about all of that and more on this show. We do talk about ABA a lot because it is so effective, but we talk about a whole host of things as well, and we bring in experts to talk to you. And as always, it's meant to be a two-way conversation. We hope that when you're watching, you will let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, and questions that you have. Because I know it seems hard to believe, because I have been there. I'm a parent of a child who was diagnosed with autism at 2.5, and I know how lonely it can feel on this journey. That you feel like, man, I am advocating for my child. I'm the only person who can do it, and that is true. Nobody can advocate like you can, but there are a whole host of people who are waiting to help you, and we're here free. We're free advice on different things. Of course, we can't give child-specific information because we don't know your child, and to make any assumption that we do would be a disservice to your child. But we can help you to build your toolkit, and then you apply the toolkit to your child. That's really exciting. So I mentioned that this is meant to be a two-way conversation. There are lots of different ways you can participate. I'm still having gremlins this morning. From time to time, we have Larry, Mo, and Curly show up and mess. There they are. There's Larry. Where's Mo? Where's Mo? Mo, come out. There he is. And Curly will show up in a second here. But from time to time, because we're live, they come and chew on things and make, oh, he just peeked in for a second, and make it difficult for us to be able to do things. So our question feature for the live show at this moment in time is not functioning. We have great minds working on it, and hopefully by the end of the show, we'll be back up and running with that, and I'll let you know. But in the meantime, there are lots of different ways you can participate, whether you're watching live or rebroadcast, you're watching us on any of the different places you can watch us, you can always email us. Don't you love that? Doesn't matter what time of the day or night, what part of the world you're in, you can email us. Emily's going to show you that email address up on the screen. And if if we're not live, if we're live, we'll be checking that on a regular basis to see if you've written in. But if we're not live for you when you're watching this, we will address your question on the next live show, and we will also send you a typewritten response. So that's pretty cool. And I know some of you have commented that the level of the people that you reach via email is kind of exciting. That yes, we take your email questions and we bring them to the appropriate expert. And sometimes you get an email from somebody you've been dying to meet at a conference, and you've got an email from them. So that's really kind of fun. And I love to hunt down the person who's going to answer your question. Sometimes it takes me a while to figure out who the appropriate person is, so I beg your patience, but we're always on the hunt for the answer, right? And you can also call us. We have an open phone line. When the show is on, you can be patched into the studio. You and I and the expert can be talking live on the air. It's a really fun thing to do. If we're not live, you can always leave a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we're back in the studio. You can also Skype in. Yesterday, it's so great. My face literally hurt because I was smiling so much. We had author Monica Holloway and her husband, also a writer, Michael Price, with us on the show, Autism Parents, and two of the funniest people that I've ever had the opportunity to talk to. He writes for The Simpsons, and she wrote the book Cowboy and Wills. I still have it here. Lovely, fabulous, really funny, really moving, touching book. They Skyped in with us yesterday. You can Skype in too. And if you have video capability, we can put you up on the screen and you and I can be chatting away. It's a very fun thing. So feel free to Skype in during the live show. And you can get a hold of us through Facebook. We regularly keep Facebook up on the screen here so that if you write something in, you can put it on our Autism Live page. And we love it when you like our Autism Live page while you're there. But you can also friend me on Facebook. I'm under my name, Shannon Penrod. Okay, we also can take your tweets. And I need to check that today. I didn't check it yesterday, and we actually didn't do our viewer response from yesterday, which was about what's your child's favorite toy. So I'm really looking forward to looking at that today, and we'll have a new question of the day as well. I mentioned that there are lots of different ways that you can be watching us. You can be watching us on autism-live.com, or you can be watching us on blip.tv. And what I love about Blip is that you can pause, rewind, search a topic, really easy to find. If you want toileting, you can look and find all the shows where we've talked about toileting. How fabulous is that? Again, it's free on blip.tv. We're also on YouTube. Do the same thing there. Pause, rewind, share. We love it when you share. Feel free to share us on Facebook. If you see a clip that you like, put it on Facebook. We appreciate that. Give us comments on YouTube. We love that. And you can also download us now for free on iTunes. What a wonderful thing. Picture and sound very soon. I think even by tomorrow, we're going to be able to give you the audio only. I know I keep promising it, but it is coming. It's in the works. But we have gremlins. And we are also on Ustream. So if you'd like to watch us on Ustream, that is another option. Lots of ways to watch us, and we appreciate when you do. We talk about reinforcing our children and how important it is that we reinforce them for the kinds of behaviors that we want to see more of. Well, it's very reinforcing for us when you watch and you write in or call in. We get very excited about that. So don't feel like I talked to somebody the other day and they said, well, I just feel like I'm bothering you. No, we find it very reinforcing, and it's not just me. Sometimes I have to make some sort of pictorial, because I'm a very visual person, of all the people that are involved and behind the scenes, and how many little roots go out to all these different people that we talk to get information for you guys to give, because please know, I am not an expert on behavior or autism or I'm a mom. But I take your questions to experts and they get excited. They're thrilled to be able to share what they know and to be able to help a parent along the way. That's a very exciting thing for me as a parent to be able to share with you. Last summer, we went to the Center for Autism and Related Disorders had a retreat, a global retreat, where people from all their offices around the world came. And I remember standing in the back of a ballroom, and I get emotional when we talk about autism and our kids. I do, and I apologize because I do. I cried through half of yesterday's show because it was the day after my son's birthday, and already I can feel myself welling up. But I remember standing in the back of the ballroom and seeing all of these people who have devoted their lives, you guys, to helping us help our kids and to help our kids directly as well. And I was humbled. I was absolutely humbled by it and looked at it and said, oh my gosh, had I known in the early days on this journey that this many people were working on this, I think I would have had an easier time. And I want to tell people about this. I want to tell them. And then just this last weekend, I went to ABAI and I had opportunities to meet with experts. We've got those interviews coming to show you guys. Really amazing, you guys. I'm so excited to show you what they talked about and the things that they're working on and the research that they're doing on our kids so that we can be more effective and more efficient and teach them more quicker and have them be happy. It's really, really amazing. And several times when I was done talking to people and I said, thank you so much for what you do. And they kind of looked at me and I said, it's so wonderful to know that there are people working on this. You have no idea. We sit in a corner and think that we're by ourselves and that nobody is trying to help us, but you are. And it means so much to us. And they got emotional and they said, I can't even tell you, at least I can think of 8 people off the top of my head said, really? Because we work really hard and I don't think we know that parents are excited to know that we're doing something. I said, I don't think parents know you're doing something. Let's put these two things together and get excited. Really excited. So in any case, I started with, we love it. We get reinforced when you guys share with us. So please don't feel like you're bothering us. Let us know what you're thinking about. Make suggestions. This show is for you. And if there's something you haven't seen on it that you want to see, please let us know and we'll get it in the works. Okay. Having said all that, we want to start the morning with jargon of the day. This is something that we do every single morning. I think of it as our warm-up. We have to make friends with the jargon on this journey. We just have to. And as much as I rail against it sometimes, and let me tell you, at that ABAI conference, it was a crack up how much jargon there was. And they know it, too. They know that they're jargon intensive and that they speak that way. My mother even made fun of me the other day because I said something about, oh, well, so-and-so finds that really reinforcing. And she went, what? I said, I know. I'm talking like they do now. But we have to make friends with the jargon. It does make us more effective, more efficient. We can sit in meetings and understand what people are saying to us and be able to help our children that much quicker. So one word, one phrase, one little bit at a time, just like we teach our kids. So we get it in small little spoonfuls so that we can get it under wraps, right? So today's phrase is response blocking. Okay. No, it's not a quilting term. I'm trying to think of all the different things that you could think that it is, but response blocking, let's give you the actual definition first. A procedure in which the therapist physically intervenes as soon as the child begins to emit a problem behavior to prevent the completion of the targeted behavior. Okay, so, and then let's look at the working definition, which is gently physically stopping a child from making an incorrect or inappropriate response. So, and this is going to come up in a lot of different ways. That let's say that you're doing a program and we're using DTT, discrete trial teaching, and we've got a field of 3 things out in front of the child. We've worked up to a field of 3 because we did errorless learning where we only put one thing in front of the child and we said, you know, give me the fire truck, right? And there was only a fire truck out there. It's like, you can't get it wrong, right? They still may not know it and we might have to prompt them, but you know, there's no possibility that they could reach and get something else wrong. But eventually, when we've said, give me the fire truck, and they're able to do it very easily, no prompting, we're going to add in some distractors, right? Because we want to make sure that they're looking and saying, this is a fire truck, this is not a fire truck. So I've got a field of 3 out there. I've got a fire truck, I've got a ball, and I've got a shoe. It could be pictures of them, or it could be little miniature figures, whatever. Or actual, you know, a fire truck toy, a ball, and a shoe. But I say to the child, give me the fire truck. And I see the child starting to reach for the ball. Well, I don't want the child to be wrong or get frustrated, right? So I'm going to when I see them reach for the ball, I'm going to gently take and I'm going to stop them from getting the ball. And I'm going to take and go, and I might say no, but very gently go say, no, give me the fire truck. right? And then I let go. And if I have to, I'm going to prompt, oh, there's the fire truck. Good job. I'm going to prevent them from making the incorrect response. It's not slapping the hand away. It's very gently. You know, if we see sometimes when a child starts to learn and they are a sponge and they're getting it and they know already what's coming, when we're mass trialing something where we're only asking one thing, you know, give me the fire truck, and I've got fire truck, shoe, and ball out there, and I say, give me the fire truck. The child reaches for the fire truck, they give it to me, yay, that's great. And I mix the cards up, right? And I lay them out, and before I can say, give me the fire truck, the child already knows it's coming, so they reach for the fire truck. Well, that's incorrect too. We don't want the child because that's going to lead to problems later on. So in that case, I'm going to response block too, and I'm just going to very gently, no, wait, give me fire truck, right? And so then the child gives me the fire truck. So there's all different kinds of times when we're teaching when we want a response block. But there are also times when a child will be doing something and it's a behavior that we don't want to see happen. You know, if the child goes to hit us, you know, we're not going to comment on it, but we're going to reach up and stop and put the hand someplace else and distract elsewhere, right? So I always say, you know, as moms and dads, when we get our children and they start to get mobile, we become octopi, right? We have 18 arms that are everywhere and can stop things that are happening. Therapists consider that times 12. And if we're going to work with our child in a therapist capacity, we want to be very spatially aware of what's going on, and we're focusing on what we're focusing, but we're blocking hands from making incorrect responses. It's going to cut down on the level of frustration. We don't want to be in a position of going, oh, you got it wrong, right? We want to block the response and you might say no, or you might, you know, just do the hand, but very gently, and give me truck. And if you need to, you go to the last successful prompt. So if the last successful prompt was that you gently put a finger on their hand to guide with one finger, you go back to that, right? So response blocking, preventing them from making a choice that's inappropriate or incorrect. And we'll see if we can dig up some video of this before the end of the day so that you can see it, because there's some therapists who are just so slick about it. They're so smooth working with a child. The child doesn't even know that they've been response blocked. I love to watch great therapists because it's, oh my gosh, it's like watching a ballet, right? And we'll see if there's something in the A word today. I don't think there is. But it's a really effective thing. It gets you to the right answers that much quicker. Because imagine if you were doing something, and especially something that was really difficult, and somebody kept going, every time you got it wrong, eventually you'd be like, leave me alone, right? And so we don't want our children to get frustrated. So we're going to prevent them from getting the wrong answer very gently. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you. The question of the day today, because we're gearing up for summer. Some of you are out of school already. Some of you are about to be out of school. I know my son's last day is next Wednesday, and I don't really have it all together yet for the summer, but that's why we have the question of the day. The question of the day is, what summer activities do you have planned? And if you're like me, you're like, I don't, that's okay. It'll get us thinking about it. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you have planned? Are you going to go on a trip at all? Are you going to stay at home? In our early years of autism, man, we stayed at home, did the therapy, but we tried to have things planned in that we could take advantage of the seasons, because, you know, we need to teach our kids the seasons, to understand that summer is different than winter, right? Even if you're in a place where the climate doesn't change that much, there are still different activities. And I know, I'm assuming that you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and I shouldn't, because I know we have viewers in New Zealand and Australia and Africa, so it's not going to be summer for you. In your case, what are your plans for this winter? Love to hear from you guys about what you have planned for this next stretch of time. I shouldn't have just assumed summer, but because we can all learn from each other, right? So you can write it on Facebook, you can email it to us, you can tweet it to us, and we'll be talking about those on the show in the next hour. So love to hear from you on that. We also always have a topic of the day. Our topic this week, as it is a lot of the time, because it's my favorite topic, is ABA for beginners. I just think it's so important to go back to basics pretty much on a daily basis. And I don't know, maybe that's unfair because I need that. There have been so many things that have gone on in the last 2 weeks. We always have this whirlwind around my son's birthday that I have wonderful family who come and visit, and that's a wonderful thing. But, you know, it changes the routine. Things are a little bit different, and I'm a little bit different. You know how that is? You get around family and you revert back to whatever, you know, whoever you used to be. You know, my mom is here, so I catch myself sometimes being a 12-year-old. Not intentionally, but I have to keep reminding myself, you know, I have a new set of rules since my child was diagnosed with autism, and there are a set of rules that work, and they work for very specific reasons because they're scientifically shown to work, and they're my tools, right? These rules are my tools, and if I want to get a certain reaction, then I need to use my tools. Had this with my son yesterday. We're having lots of compliance issues because there have been lots of people visiting the house, and some rules have been relaxed. Like we went to Disneyland last week, and he had a birthday party day before yesterday, and, you know, on a school night, he had friends over, and he got into bed very late, and, you know, so I had a tired child yesterday, and was having a child who was not being compliant, and of course, I was tired too. Talk about having motivating operations on board that are not helpful and supportive for what you're trying to do. And I found myself wanting not just to nag at him, which I share on the show is something that it's my go-to. I want to nag, but I didn't want to just nag at him yesterday. I wanted to full on yell at him and go, "Why are you doing this? Just get in the car." Right? Which I knew was not going to be useful. And I had to take that breath and go, wait a second. It's not about being right. It's about gaining the compliance. And what do I need to do to get the compliance? Oh, right. I have tools. I'm very tired, but I can use my tools. And I did. And suddenly I had a compliant child back for a while. It didn't last all night. I had to go back to basics again and go, wait a minute, where's my toolkit? And not my 12-year-old toolkit. My adult, I have big girl pants. I know about ABA toolkit. So it's worthwhile for all of us, I think, to go back to basics. So we will be doing that today. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to give you a generalization tip because that's really super duper important. We're going to do the myth of the day, and we have a special guest today. Tiffany O'Day is going to be with us. She's never been on the show before. She is the head of marketing here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and I asked her to come on because there are a lot of things going on that I think that you guys should know about. There's a new office opening up, and more importantly, there's the potential for other offices to open up around the world. And you know, I always like to say that I sat there one day and thought, I don't know what is going to happen to us. I don't know what's going to happen to my child. I don't know that my child is ever going to be able to look me in the eye and say, "Mom, I really love you," or "Mom, I'm really angry with you," or "Mom, I don't want to go to that college." You know, those things were a huge question mark for me because my son had lost virtually all of his language. But we came to the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and guess what? Those things are my reality now. He looks at me and goes, "Mom, I love you. Mom, I am so mad at you. I don't know what to say to you. And Mom, that's not where I want to go to college. That's not what I want to study." And it's a wonderful thing. And so if it seems like I'm a huge fan of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, it is no mistake. I'm not apologetic about it. They gave me my kid back, you know? So I love them. They were our ABA provider. I am well aware of the fact that they are not the only ABA provider in the world, but you understand that I love them extra special because I got my child back from them. I hope that someday I'm going to meet you and we're going to stand someplace and you're going to say to me, "Oh, well, this is who gave me my child back," and we can have that discussion. But I do talk about Carla, or Skype in and tell me who gave you your child back. I'm so good with that because ABA is the name of the game, right? But you'll forgive me if I extra special love card. And if I, you know, want them to be in more places so that more of you can have the benefit of them. So Tiffany's going to come in and talk to us about the new office that's opening up and the potential for others in your neck of the woods if that's something you're interested in. So that'll be at 11 o'clock. I'm really looking forward to that. And we got a lot of other things that we're going to talk about today that I think are going to be really fun. And I want to remind you that tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we're going to have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and really excited about talking to him. Fridays is sort of devoted to research, and as much as, in the beginning I thought, research, it overwhelms me a little bit, but I love the way Dr. Tarbox talks about it because it doesn't at all. It gets me really excited. So that will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Lots to talk about, lots to do. You're going to want to stick with us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Mostly the behavior started at night, but it was invading the day, where he would just speak one syllable and babble and pace around.
When she was a year old, she lost speech. She did never seem to request me for anything, even for food. He told me over the phone that I should just put her in an institution. I was devastated. I was an institution, a hospital. Yeah, isn't that nice?
He told me that it was possible or likely that Ruffin would never be employed, that he would never work productively, that he would not know that I loved him, nor would he love me, nor would he be likely to marry.
There's a 50% chance that he won't be able to talk at all, but if he does talk, he will only be able to, make simple desire requests. I want, things like that. And probably by the time he was 10, he'd be in a home.
Doreen told me that he would recover, and Doreen told me that he would go to regular kindergarten.
I really have a very normal kid now, and lots of normal worries, but not extraordinary ones.
My name is Deli Popola, and I'm one of the creators of theoutspot.com. Theoutspot.com is an online support system for families and specialists who are affected by autism across the whole world. Share inspirational stories, find resources in their area. Hope you can join.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're talking about compliance this morning. I just talked a little bit about my son yesterday, and you know how when you upset the apple cart and you do things a little bit differently for a couple of days, and then compliance is in question. Because the truth of the matter is that when we set things up in a regimented way, and we do it for a reason, to teach that there are consequences that come with things, and that there are good consequences that come with good behavior, right? But then when we play with it a little bit, it upsets that. And that's a good thing, actually, because we need for children to see that it can't always be one way. And sometimes there have to be flexibility with rules. That comes at a specific time. My son is old enough now, and he's doing well enough that it's good for us to do things in a different way, and try to teach him that I don't care if this rule changed, this rule is always the same, right? So I think, it's to be expected. I also am having, after all this vacation time, I'm having trouble setting back into the routine of, this has to happen at this time, otherwise we're underslept. So compliance is one of those things that we're always going to be working on, right? Always. I don't think we're never going to be able to put it in the done pile and go, well, we've got compliance, goody, we can move on to the next thing. It just grows and grows and grows with a child. And I was sitting and talking with a friend the other day whose son is about to be 13. And she said, I just can't even believe the things that he asks me. And this is a neurotypical child, but he says, well, I want to go and be with my friends, and I want to go to the movies, and I don't want you to go with me, and, I'm going to go participate in my thing, and that it's shocking to her. And I said, yeah, I can't even imagine when we get to that point. But on the other hand, somebody who's about to be 13 in just 5 short years is going to be 18 and go away to college. And I used to teach college, and you don't want to have a college college kid who doesn't know how to go and do things on their own, right? They have to be taught some independence sometime. And what are you going to do? Do that right like the day before they leave for college? They have to assert themselves. Well, when our children on the spectrum challenge us in terms of compliant, it's because there's growth. So we don't want for there to be no growth, right? Because growth is building potential, right? So we want to know that it's growing pains and this child is progressing and it's to be expected. We're right on schedule, right? Nothing aberrant is happening. We're not regressing, right? I know that was a huge fear of mine, that because my child had regressed into autism, that anytime something happened, I was like, oh no, the sky is falling. But we need to keep on compliance and not keep on it in the terms of my go-to, the nagging, right? That doesn't get it done. But we want to keep on the compliance and keep making it rewarding for them to be compliant. I know it's hard to believe, and I don't yet have a teenager, but I do know people who do have teenagers who are largely compliant. We're not expecting 100% compliance with 100% of things, because otherwise they don't get to adulthood, right? Then they just have the apron strings attached. I know that sounds good, but it's not good. In any case, we got to keep on the compliance, and we do that by making it rewarding. And I do know people who have teenagers who have made it rewarding for their teenagers to be compliant, and they have happy lives. I have to say, I'm hoping to follow in their footsteps. So we want to reinforce that good compliant behavior that we want to see. But the crux of the problem there for all of these things that we talk about is what is truly reinforcing. And I know I got into this yesterday with my son because he was just not being compliant. And it was totally understandable. He got a new toy for his birthday. He got a Move to go with his PlayStation thing, and he had not had a chance to play with it. I gave him some time to play with it after school, and I said, and now we have to go run errands, and I had given him the time things. But, leaving a very preferred activity to go to a very unpreferred activity, it's going to be an uphill battle anyway, right? And as I mentioned, he was tired, I was tired, but I needed to make it really reinforcing to him. And that doesn't mean that we constantly have to be giving rewards, right? But that for things that are difficult, that we're trying to gain back, and please, in this moment, with the week that we've had, this compliance was going to be a difficult uphill battle. I did not in any way reinforce the bad behavior. In fact, when he was saying, I'm not going, I acted like I didn't hear that at all. So it's planned ignoring. I was still in the room with him getting myself ready, but, totally did not acknowledge when he was saying, no, I don't want to go. That just it didn't happen, which frustrates him to no end. But when he was saying things to me and expressing how he was really feeling, I did pay attention. So when he was saying, Mom, I really don't feel like I've had enough time to play, and I'm a little frustrated that I haven't had more time to play, then I totally answered him. I rewarded that level of communication, which was completely appropriate and probably above appropriate for a 9-year-old. But when he was saying, no, I don't want to go, I did not reward that with discussion. But when he did say, I'm really frustrated, I totally was talking to him, which he finds very reinforcing when he is heard. And I said, no, I totally hear you. Here's my thing. We really have to go and do this. But when we go, we're going to be able to do this that you're going to really like, right? And when we get home, you're going to be able to do this, which you really like. And then I had a child who was compliant. Yes, in the moment, what I wanted to do was say, get in the car. Only I wanted to say it really loud and really frustrated, but I did not. I sure thought about it. There was a little moment there where I was like, oh, I think some really nasty things are going to come out of my mouth. And I took a breath and did not do that. Now, that lasted, we got in the car and that lasted about 5 minutes, and then we had another little moment. But again, finding what's truly reinforcing, not taking the bait. I love years ago, somebody had said to me, do you know what the root of the word bait is? It's offer. And when somebody's baiting you, they're offering you something. You get to choose whether you take it or not. And my son baits me. and I could take the offer and get mad and yell at him. And I won't say that I never have, right? Because I am not a perfect person and I'm not striving to be a perfect person, but I know that that doesn't solve it. I don't get the compliant child for having done that. So at the end of the day, we have to figure out what is reinforcing to them and find the reinforcement to offer them for the compliant behavior and rewards the compliant behavior with that reinforcement. But it has to be truly reinforcing. And I think it's really important to think of it in terms of get the behavior and then reinforce. It's hard sometimes, and I won't say that it never happens that you get into a negotiation. It's not the end of the world to be in a negotiation, but when possible, the best possible configuration is they do a behavior and you immediately reinforce it and say, hey, that was awesome. Because then you got a child who just did something and you reinforced it, and then they really want to do it more. My son loves to negotiate. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but even better if you reinforce because the behavior happened naturally. But that doesn't always happen, in which case, we've talked about this before, ask them to do something you know that they already wanted to do and reinforce that. I know it's sneaky, but it works. And it doesn't just work on your children, it works on all kinds of people in your family. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we're going to do our generalization tip for the week, so stick with us. Oh, maybe we're not going. Yes, I guess we are. We'll stick with us and we'll be back in just a minute.
Here I stand, a man. Someone who has overcome struggles. Someone who has endured perceptions of what others thought of him. Thinking he was stupid because he was autistic. Or simply believing him to be nothing because he was different to them in their minds. But I stood my ground. I just wanted to say to the organization in general, alongside helping me to improve communicatively and socially, the other greatest gifts you gave me were the value of discipline and a good work ethic. To quote Anthony Kiedis, to celebrate you is greater now that I can. You helped me to realize that the harder you work, the likelier you are to achieve success. Having had to work very, very hard to recover from autism, this discipline has continued to serve me well. I also realized that you taught me a lot about and instilled within me a quality of having compassion and sympathy for other people. That you will be concerned more with the needs and wishes of others than with your own is something that I'm awe of and I constantly strive to be. And in closing, the only way I can sum up all of you is love. Everything you do to help families in need, you do out of the sheer love of wanting to make a positive difference in people's lives. And as I stand here before you as a mature adult, I have to say that I'm extremely grateful for your unwavering loving commitments to helping others and me recover from potential life roadblocks and become active and contributing members of society. While I can't overcome obstacles without a will, I cannot have a will without the love of those supporting me. And without love, I am nothing. Thanks again so very much for your love, everything that you've done and continue to do. Please give my best wishes to your families, everybody else with cardio isn't here, and especially all of your clients and their kids. I'm confident that they too will be able to overcome, and I know that they'll be successful at what they do as long as they continue to put their minds, hearts, passions, and best efforts into it. Enough said.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm trying to send something. I'm multitasking here. You caught me. But I definitely need to send this to this person to answer a question. Here we go. All right. So glad you're back. And we're going to talk about generalization right now. Generalization it's one of the hallmarks of a really good ABA program. And I know I say this, but I can't say it enough. If you are working with an ABA provider already and you want to know if your ABA provider is great, first of all, you should be seeing results. And yes, things take time and you can't expect things to happen overnight with all programs, but you should be seeing regular substantive progress and you should be seeing graphs that are showing progress. And if you're not, if somebody somebody is doing something with your child and you're not getting to mastery and it seems like weeks or, heaven forbid, months are going by, you need to be asking, don't we need to tweak something? And we'll talk a little bit later on in the week about criteria for mastery and how we set things and how we can change things when things aren't working. But don't let months go on. That is not how ABA is supposed to work. You should see regular progress, or they should be explaining to you why you're not seeing regular progress. And in the process of it, though, you should be hearing the word generalization a lot. And if you're not, ask, why am I not hearing about generalization? Are we planning from generalization for the first day? And if somebody says to you, oh, we'll get around to that, that is not a good ABA program. That is when you know you are in trouble. And don't stick around. If somebody says to you, oh, we'll get to generalization later, it is time to ask for a change immediately. And I know there are some of you who are sitting there around the world and you say, but this is the only ABA provider. There are other things that you can do, but wasting your time and your resources and your funds is not an option. Right? If you have insurance and they're paying for your child to get ABA, it's not endless. There is no such thing as an endless pool of fund. And it's all too easy for a year to go by. And believe me, I have heard this from parents time and time again. Well, we didn't know that we weren't getting quality ABA therapy. We were getting ABA therapy and we were so grateful, right? So grateful, and we just didn't understand why we weren't seeing the progress. And and then we realized about a year and a half later, and we switched providers, and the world of difference that happened, and we wish we could have gone back and switched immediately. I know it's hard to know if you don't have things to compare, but compare. Compare right away. And this is one of those things. Generalization should happen from the get-go. And you need to hear that word happening. And if you're not hearing it, ask, why am I not hearing this word? And what are you doing to plan for generalization? Tell me right now. And they should be able to tell you. It should be a non-answer. That would be like you asking my name for an ABA provider to tell you what they're doing to plan for generalization. It's not something they go, oh, well, let me go back to my notes. No. Generalization is when your child gets to the point where they've learned a lesson so well in very specific circumstances that they can now apply the knowledge of that lesson in ways that they weren't taught. So, for instance, if we're teaching our children how to tie shoes, right? And we're going to teach them with a very specific, their shoes, right? But you're eventually going to go buy a new pair of shoes, right? And you never have taught it on this individual pair of shoes, but and with these laces, because the laces are always different, right? But your child still is able to do it even though you never taught it on that shoe with those laces. You've been teaching it on shoes and now you go to do it on ice skates and your child can tie the shoes. Well, you didn't teach how to lace up an ice skate with all the different things, right? But your child figured it out because they know the skill backwards, forwards, and they didn't just learn into this one specific thing. And the way we plan for generalization is that we do it across time, across people, across stimuli, across locations. We vary things up. So we try to teach the lesson with not just the same person teaching it all the time. That's people. So mom teaches it this morning and dad teaches it this afternoon. So we haven't just taught the child to do it with mom. And we haven't just taught the child to do it with dad. So that when the teacher says, hey, put your shoes on and do this, that the child can do it because the teacher said it, right? We do it across time. So we don't just teach it at the same time every day. We do it across stimuli. So we do it with a pair of shoes here, and we do it with a toy doll over here, and maybe we do it with our brother's shoes over here. So we're not learning it just on the red pair of shoes. We have to plan for these things. The big example that I always think of is toilet training. This is where a lot of people make the mistake and don't plan for generalization from the first minute, and it has long-reaching effects. So they teach the child, they're so excited, and they teach potty training, and we teach it in the downstairs bathroom, and it's great, and then you go to have the child learns toilet training, everything's wonderful, you go to have them go to the bathroom upstairs. No. They learned how to do it in the downstairs toilet and they want to do it downstairs. Or even worse, you go on vacation and you're in the hotel room or you're at Aunt Beth's house and the child is refusing to go to the bathroom, and you revert back in toilet training because the child is used to all the stimuli that is in that downstairs bathroom. We don't want that to happen, right? We want our child to be... I mean, you know, it's terrible. We don't think about this, but we want our child to be able to go to the bathroom in absolutely any toilet that there is in the world, right? And can we teach that? No, we do not have time to go to every single toilet in the world. But if we plan for generalization from the beginning, from the get-go, the child won't have the problem of the inflexibility of just learning it in this one toilet. So that when we get to the Kmart bathroom that we've never been in before because it's in San Antonio and we've never been in San Antonio, the child doesn't balk and go, I don't know how to go to the bathroom in this toilet. And we see that happen all the time. So really important that we solve this issue from the beginning. And this is why I say that any good ABA provider should be telling you from the minute that they devise the lesson, they should have said, and here is how we're going to attack generalization. Here are the tools that we're going to use. Here is how the therapists are going to deliver it so that we will get generalization. We'll set ourselves up for generalization. And there are lots of different things that you can do to create those different, this is where I say it gets creative. This is a creative, fun art. Think outside the box. How are you going to do this? For toilet training, you're going to, you're going to do it in your downstairs toilet, then you're going to do it in your upstairs toilet, and then you're going to ask the neighbor, can we ask people that are kind? Can we come over and use your toilet? But you're also going to use other things too, and you're going to show pictures in a magazine and go, look at that bathroom. Somebody goes pee-pee in the potty there, right? You're gonna, and at any time when you're targeting toileting and you're watching a TV program, go, look, somebody goes pee-pee in the potty there, right? So you're introducing the toilets everywhere. You're gonna go to the store and you're gonna say, let's go into the bathroom here, and make it exciting and reinforcing and really, really fun. And you can do this with all different kinds of lessons. It's not just toileting. Everything we teach our children, we have to plan for generalization from the get-go. And don't feel like it all has to be, that you're planning, and you don't have to make yourself crazy. Is what I'm trying to say. You can make it really easy. Use your magazines, use TV, use video, bring things up. If you're teaching red, you're going to go out into the garden and you're going to look at all the red things. You're going to walk through your community. You're going to get on a city bus and say, let's find all the red things on the bus, right? So that you're showing that not only is this red, but that's red too, and that over there is red. Bringing up all the different reds, because you can't teach every red in the world, but you can teach hundreds of reds. Or you could pop in their favorite Disney video and say, let's look for all the things that are red in this video, right? And that's one way that we can get generalization. So creating those situations, it is creative, but you have to think about it ahead of time. You never want to start a lesson without having considered, how am I going to generalize this skill? I'm teaching the skill. How am I teaching the skill? But how am I going to generalize this skill? How am I going to be smart? Because it's always, you can fix it if you get it wrong. You can. If you've made the mistake, and I know we've all been there in some lesson, all of us, but if you've made a mistake and you didn't plan for generalization, it is fixable, but it's so much harder to fix it afterwards than it is in the beginning. So it has to be thought of first, and that's why your ABA provider has to be able to point out and say, this is exactly what we're doing to plan for generalization. Generalization is wonderful because when your child starts to generalize, it's like the flower that opens up, and your child will begin to learn all kinds of things and apply them in different ways, and you go, oh, we didn't plant that seed. We really didn't, and it sprouted anyway. Look at that. And it's really exciting. So plan for generalization. Make sure that your ABA provider is. That's our generalization tip for the week, and we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
I am grateful for Autism Speaks because they allow families like me to have hope. They're working towards having these children live better lives.
There's a space for you. Yeah, there's a world for you, and there's a community that is behind you.
And one that has really been able to be the singular voice for people who are involved with and who care about autism.
I do have autism, but I don't let that become a disability for me. Autism Speaks is going to continue to help those who need it, and just look at all the stuff they've done so far and you will be impressed.
3, 2, 1.
And you need to support the walks. We have to raise awareness, but we also have to raise funds to do the work.
I'm grateful for Autism Speaks for one main reason, is they are allowing me to focus on the research.
The work that Autism Speaks has been doing is critical for keeping autism research on the radar screen.
We proclaimed 2 April as the World Autism Awareness Day. I'm very proud of the UN and thankful Autism Speaks.
Getting the health mandate bill passed in New Jersey particularly, we needed to be able to make an argument, not just do this because it's the right thing to do, but do it because it's cost effective.
When everyone else told me nothing was wrong with my son, I got information from a website that told me something wasn't right.
I am so proud of Autism Speaks for creating these beautiful ad campaigns, which have reached people who are not affected by autism and have also created a greater climate of compassion and understanding.
It's been really great for Bachman to have gotten involved with Autism Speaks early on. I think everybody here feels like they really make a difference.
To make sure that we generate as much money as we can for Autism Speaks so we can all solve this puzzle together.
There's no way we could have come this far without our families, without our supporters to date, but there's so much farther we have to go. And everybody's invited to join this cause. We need all the help we can get to make the difference we know we can make.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I mentioned earlier that the summer is coming up. Our question of the day is, what kind of plans do you have for the summer? We're going to be looking at those viewer responses in just a few minutes, but I wanted to make sure that I reiterated to you guys on a regular basis that there's a wonderful program called Skills. We show some information about it from time to time. I want you to know that it's something that I personally use with my child. He graduated from his ABA program a year and a day ago, and but we continue to use ABA at home, and not just the principles of ABA. I have that toolkit, right? But we continue to work on lessons because there's still some things that he's catching up on. I've shared that we were working on shoe tying, and the big thing this summer that we have not gotten to because we discovered an eye problem for him, we are going to be riding a two-wheel bicycle with no training wheels hard this summer. I'm really excited about it. And I use Skills for whenever I want to teach my son, and we use it a lot for executive functions and cognitive, and we're still working on things in the social language curriculum. And as an ex-teacher, I find it really, really useful because I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's a curriculum. It's the exact curriculum. It's the entire curriculum, actually, that CARD has worked on, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, for more than 20 years. Tried and true, lots of research has gone into it, and it's the exact same lessons that my son was having when we had therapists come to the door. It's just that now I'm driving the bus, right? Right? And I want to let you know that you can drive the bus too. Whether it's that you're sharing the driving or you're doing it all on your own, that's up to your circumstances. But, you know, years ago when my son was diagnosed and I didn't know about ABA for a period of time, And then I did know about it, but we were on a waiting list to get started, to get the funding, right? And there was nothing available to me. I was saying, well, if this is so great, how can I do it? Where can I find it? What can I learn? Don't make me sit here and wait, was the thing that I said as a parent. If you know that you've got something that works, then don't make me wait for it. But there was nothing. I mean, I could have gone and taken a college class, but by the time the college class was over, you know, my son was going to be that much older, and I was going to be that much poorer, and I literally didn't have the time to do that, to take a college class and learn about ABA. And it's always been my thing of, you know, how are we going to level the playing field? How are we going to make sure that everybody has access? Because we were talking a couple of weeks ago with the gentlemen who are making a documentary about autism in the Ukraine. And, you know, we think that there's people here that have it bad. And I watch these images from the Ukraine and I just go, how can this be? We can't all have it differently. I'm sorry, but, and I don't mean to leave the dads out of it, but as a mom, we all feel the same way. We want and I know the dads do too, but I'm a mom, so I'm going to speak from the mom's point of view, that it's not fair that I as a mom, because I lived in the state of California, can have access to something that helps my child, and that somebody in somebody in Utah doesn't have access to it, and somebody in Ukraine hasn't even heard about it. To me, that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. But I have mentioned that a couple of years ago I got called in to come and see this presentation here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and they showed for the first time to any group of people CARD learning and skills. And when I tell you that I got so excited, I shook for 2 hours. I was so excited, and I said, this is the answer to my mother's prayer, that at least everybody has access. So CARD learning is the component of it that teaches you all about the tools, and I really recommend that to all of you, whether you already have an ABA provider, whether you don't have an ABA provider. You know, you have to be part of the team. Whether you're a teacher, parent, practitioner, you're part of the team, and you should know those things. We help to fill in here, but really you got to take the class, and it does it in a way that's really efficient. You can pause and start and learn the lessons really effectively. And very quickly. And you do it in your home, and I got to tell you, it's really inexpensive. But if you look at how much it is, you know, I think it's $150 to do it, and you have 6 months to do it, but you can sit and get it done in a week and a half if you're motivated to do it. And if you've got the time, and I know if you've got little ones, that's a hard thing to do, but you're not waiting for everybody else to show up at class. You can pause it and rewind it and take notes, and it's very user-friendly. But if the $150 is too much, and I know for some of you it is, please don't just say, I can't do it then. Please apply for a grant. There are lots of different places that you can apply for a grant. One of them is Act Today. But if it's really a hardship, let me know. Could you please write to me and let me know, and I'll try to find a grant that matches you, because you need it. You really, really genuinely need that component. And then, of course, there's the skills component of it, which is all the lessons. So now you know you have the toolkit, and now you get all the lessons, and it also goes through, you take a survey about your child. They call it an assessment. There's another one of our jargon terms. But it's basically you answering questions about your individual child, because this is not a cookie cutter. There's over 6,000 lessons in there, and your child doesn't need all of them. And some of them aren't appropriate for your child because of their age. So you answer the questions, and the system says, you need lesson number 34, you need lesson 67, you need lesson 1234, you know, and it says, here are the lessons that would be appropriate for your child, and then you get to pick and choose and say which order you want to do them in. And it's also very inexpensive. It's like a monthly subscription to it, where you have your online files, you can print things out, very user-friendly. And I tell you that the monthly subscription is also very, very reasonable. But if it's too much, please do not be shy. Would you please promise me that you'll write to me and say, Shannon, I can't afford that. And don't feel bad about it, because there were days when I couldn't have either. So I get it, right? But tell me, please tell me, and I'll figure out what we can do to help you, hook you up with the right organization that helps with that kind of thing. And there are organizations. In any case, and then use it. Use it because it works and because it will save you time. And I also want to tell you that the skills people right now have a special, because it's the summer, and we know that there's a wonderful advertisement. I don't even know what it's for, but they show a kid who's playing in the water and they go like this, and all of their knowledge from the school year comes out of their head. They're talking about, you know, don't let the summer get rid of what your child has learned. We all need to be careful about that, right? And we know that there's less access to services during the summer, and Skills has your back on that. What they've said is if you pay for 1 month, they will give you the rest of the summer for free. So you'll get 2 free months for that 1 month that you pay for. Try it out. What have you got to lose, right? So in any case, Skills, I love it. And I think that you will too if you use it. But there it is. It's a tool that's there for you. I hope you will use it. It is time for the A word. And you know I love the A word. This is the wonderful documentary that's being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. They're following a little boy, Jack Riley, who in real time is 3.5 now, but on the video he's about to be 3 that we're seeing today. He was diagnosed at 2. He's been getting ABA therapy intensive in the home for at least 6 months at this point, and it's wonderful because you begin to see the arc of, you know, we started out and they got compliance and they got eye contact, and then they were working on joint attention, and then they were working on manding, and they were working on labeling things, and then they worked on categories, and of course they worked on a bunch of other things that I'm not mentioning, but now it's all coming together, and they're teaching him man frames so that he's not just saying, originally he was saying guitar, and then it was more guitar or want guitar, and now he's saying, can I have the guitar? It's exciting. It's really, really exciting. So take a look at what's happening this week with Jack Riley.
Every month, Jack Riley's case supervisor, therapists, and parents meet to check in with one another. During clinic, they determine what skills have been mastered and what new lessons should be added.
Put the line under the truck. Where'd it go? Oh, does that count? Under. Oh no! What sound does a lion make? Roar. Roar. Can you put the lion in front of the truck?
It's more fun that way.
Roar! Good job. Open. Open. Well, hold on. Put the lion behind the truck.
Okay, so I'm going to add prepositions. Use reference objects that has all the obvious sides, and make sure that the objects that you're using, like the reference object or the target object that has to manipulate, is not something that's too fun, because then you want him to start playing with it. So just sort of keep it neutral items.
In the lesson prepositions, they first start with on top, since Jack Riley can clearly see what's being referenced. Once he understands that preposition, they'll include more complex ones, such as underneath or behind. The reason those are complex is that the child cannot see what is being referenced.
Do you know how many Tonka trucks your dad had?
You didn't say them for him?
No. About the time I was 40, I didn't think I was going to have any kids.
And now look at you.
Look at me now.
Slow down. Slow down. No.
Look, you gotta get 5. 5? Good. And you can go play, okay? Sit better, okay? Look, it's a monkey.
It's a monkey.
No, point to the next one.
It's a monkey. It's a potato.
Good.
It's a
Oh, you did it! Good job!
In this lesson, they are stringing together mastered labels to make sure Jack Riley remembers them all. This exercise works on his language fluency.
Oh, you did it!
I wish you
Here,
guys
there's a
could see his
sticker.
face. He was so proud of himself.
And
The
he
little
wasn't
like
waiting
half
for you.
smirk. So cute.
Look, here you go.
Becker.
Cookie.
This is gonna be a fun program.
Yes.
What?
Okay, here you go.
Oh, look
Say, can I? Stop talking. Can you say, can I have the guitar? Sure. There you go. Turn it on. What guitar? Say, can I? Guitar. Sure. Here you go. Yay! See you soon. Do you want more? Purple iPhone. You want the purple iPhone? Alright, we can work with that too. That's a bit. What? That's a bit. Oh, it is an elephant. What color is it? Pink. Say it's a. Oh, bless you. Say it's a pink elephant. A pink has a bit. There you go. It is a pink elephant.
It was only 9 weeks ago when we first saw Jack Riley independently tagged with joy detention, and in that time he's become a lot more vocal. Jack Riley is needing less prompting to speak, and his speech isn't only reserved for manding, but is becoming more and more social. He wants to engage others in his experience instead of using people only as tools to receive objects that he wants.
What do you? Why iPhone? Can I iPhone? Okay, say can I have? Can I iPhone? Okay, you say. Can I iPhone? Say can I have? iPhone. Say can I have? iPhone. Say have. Can I iPhone? Good trying, buddy. That's a good try. Here you go. Kind of all slurred there. It's okay. So that's a new target we have in Mans. We're trying to expand his frames of asking for things because he's so good about saying I want and give me. So we want him to start asking in different ways. So Sabrina wanted us to start teaching him can I have, and then we'll expand to may I have. As you saw in clinic, she wants us to work on fluency too, and he's getting a lot better with the it's a item. I don't know if you remember like footage from like months ago when we were doing labels and all he wanted to say was the object. Like he didn't want to say it's at all. What is it? Say it's. Yeah, it's a chicken. Good job. 2 more stickers. Look.
What do you mean by language fluency?
Oh, so that when he speaks, it's more fluid. It's not like broken up, and it's not slurred either. Right. Yay! There you go, buddy. Very good. That was very good. He picked it up really fast. Still slurred, but nonetheless, still pretty good. But I guess as you can see, like through your footage, like he picks up things in like a couple trials, and he already knows it. All right, my turn. Do you want more penguin? More penguin. Okay. It's a pillow. It's a pillow. It's a ref. It's a door. It's a bird. It's a slide. Say, it's a slide. It's a slide. There you go. Nice job. Thanks. It's a potato. Good. It's a camera. Good boy. It's a toothbrush. Good job. It's a ladybug. Uh-huh. It's a couch. Good boy. That was really good. He's really getting those ending sounds in the words. It's really good. Yeah, the way he articulates the different sounds in the words, because a lot of those words are really hard to say. It's really good compared to what it was like when we initially taught him. And I know we added the words that he can't articulate very well in echoics, and I guess that helped too, but just hearing the fluency and the way he says it is really good. I'm impressed.
But he seems like he's really trying to.
Yeah, and he makes all the sounds in the words now, versus, he'll just slur the words like before. Like, what word did he say? It was really good. I don't remember, but like chicken would have been like a slurred word. Like, I don't know. I don't even remember. But
it's like shisho.
Yeah, but he really tries to articulate every sound now, especially the ending sounds too, like cat and dog. Like he really tries. It's really good. A lot of progress.
Little Bobby.
Huh?
You are so smart, Jack Riley.
Are you a bobblehead?
So lucky.
Huh? What? Whoa. What? Whoa, what?
What?
Say it again. Were you saying something?
What? So you're a monkey? What? Okay, I'm here. What? You want to look?
Look.
See, I want to look.
I want to look.
Okay. What do you want to see?
Can you sing to the camera?
Wait, look at who is that?
Jack Riley.
Jack Riley? Can Jack Riley say hi?
Say, how are you doing? Oh, you want to look at yourself. Want to show off?
Whoa.
Hi.
Say, I'm Jack Riley.
Jack Riley.
If you're just joining us, we've been watching this week's episode of The A Word. This is about a little boy, Jack Riley, who is not yet 3 in the video, was diagnosed with autism shortly after the age of 2. He's been getting ABA therapy for about 6 months at this point in the video, and you can see that there is a YouTube channel just for The A Word. I really want to encourage you to go back and watch the episodes from the beginning if you're just joining us as a viewer, because a couple of people have written in and said to me, this little boy doesn't seem like he has autism. And if you're feeling that way, or that it's not very pronounced or whatever, that's a great thing, because he is starting to behave more and more as though he isn't in any way hampered by autism. But he did receive an autism diagnosis, and if you go back and watch the early videos and watch how he does not look at people, he is not verbal, and to see the difference in 6 months' time, this is what we do. This is what we do. Can I tell you how many times, my son was in a very bad place when we finally were diagnosed, where he was virtually nonverbal. There was no pointing, no gesturing. He had 5 words that he still said, but he didn't use them as communication. In order to, they were more like sounds that he said that were left over, that he didn't even remember what they were. And there was no compliance whatsoever. There was a lot of challenging behavior, some self-injurious behavior, some violent behavior, and I didn't take him out a lot when he was like that, and I didn't do a lot of videotaping when he was like that, because those were dark days, right? There were a couple of people who saw him and were very, very concerned for me and my family, but what's funny is that by the time he had about 6 months to a year of therapy, and we started being more mobile and going places and going to birthday parties again. And I have one good friend that, bless his heart, I talk about this from time to time, he just rejects that my son ever had autism. He just, even still, rejects this, and I think it's because he didn't want for my child to have autism. His life was going to work better and make more sense if my child didn't have autism, and so he said he says he's fine. If you watch, you can still see things that my son struggles with, right? But he is fine. He has his life, and he's going to lead a full and rich life, and the things that he is hampered by still, he's still moving through, and but you know, I know that this is this is one of the things why I love the fact that this documentary is being made, because already this child is not a year into therapy, and there are already people going, well, really, does he really have autism? Yes, go back and watch the videotapes. This child really has had a diagnosis of autism, but yeah, there may come a day when he doesn't qualify for it anymore, and that's exciting. And that's what happens to a lot of our kids when they get good quality ABA therapy at the prescribed amount. And for people who don't believe that, I'm so glad you're here so that you can see it, because seeing is believing. That yes, he is starting to have very typical reactions to things that a child that is 3 would react. He looks different. The fact that you saw that, I love the fact that the filmmaker Suzanne Oshinsky shows us that eye contact and the joint eye contact to see it happen. That this child slowly is starting to find people as reinforcing and sometimes more reinforcing than things. How many of you are watching right now whose child is more interested in a drain than you? Right? How many of you are watching that there's a toy that your child obsesses on, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're not as interested in you as that toy? For my son, it was the vacuum cleaner. Oh, the shrine to the vacuum cleaner, right? He was also into drains, and there were certain toys as well. He was very into Buzz Lightyear, but the vacuum cleaner ruled the roost, man. And I just thought it was the weirdest thing. Then I read A Real Boy, and her son was into vacuum cleaners too, and that empowered me to talk about it in my group of moms that I participate with online, and found out that it's not just my child. But now my son is infinitely more interested in people than he is in things. Really even more interested in them than video games, which, you know, that's a huge deal. We can teach these things to our children. Yes, it's a lot of time and it's an effort and it takes a team and it requires some funding and it requires the insurance company or the state or the government or somebody to help you. You cannot do it on your own, but I love being able to look at the A word and see that these people who have said doubting Tom, they're like, oh, that child doesn't have autism. No, that child has worked their keister off. And those parents have worried themselves sick and worked and made their lives different to accommodate this type of an intensive program so that their child can be helped. And that should not be poo-pooed. And a whole team of people have devised a program for this child. By the way, the lessons that he gets, they're the same ones that are in skills. And time has been spent and research has been spent. And so many people have worked to create a roadmap for success for this individual child that is unlike any other roadmap, right? There are the same tools, but the roadmap is different for this child than it was for my child or that it's going to be for your child. Some of the lessons, some of the stops along the way on this journey are going to be similar or the same, but the journey is not going to be the same. But it takes more than a village. It takes a small city, and it really gripes me when people go, oh, you know, he's fine. He didn't need any of that stuff. Yeah, no, this child needed this therapy and he got it. He's getting it. He continues to get it. And it's going to make a world of difference in his life, and it's going to make a world of difference in the world, because he is going to have a productive life and be able to do the things that he wants to do. As a parent, nobody can tell me that's a small thing. That's everything. That is absolutely everything. All right, before I get all emotional, we're going to take a break, but watch the A word and see what's possible when we give the right amount of ABA therapy over the right amount of time with a quality ABA therapy. They're planning for generalization. You can bet your boopy if somebody asked them, they'd be able to tell you like that how they're planning for generalization. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about viewer responses both from yesterday and today to the question of the day. Stick with us.
Skills is a revolutionary web-based program that incorporates comprehensive assessment, curriculum design, progress tracking, and treatment evaluation for children with autism all in one place. Developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our approach is based on over 40 years of research on the principles of learning and their application to improving the lives of children with autism. How does Skills work? Created with speed and simplicity in mind, Skills was modeled on an easy 3-step process. Step 1. Start assessment. Step 1 begins with our intelligent assessment system, which consists of a series of questions. This assessment is essential to identifying your child's level of skills compared to their typical peers across all areas of development. This includes assessing social, motor, language, adaptive, play, cognition, executive functions, and academic skills. Every skill has an assigned age which indicates when the skill emerges during typical development. This means that each child is automatically presented only with lessons that are relevant to his or her age. Step 2. Choosing activities. It's now easier than ever to build an individualized treatment plan. In Step 2, you are presented with an individualized pool of activities that are directly linked to your student's assessment results. Each activity represents a specific skill that has been indicated by the assessment as needing to be taught. Activities are categorized by curriculum and then by lesson. There are 3 main types of skills: building blocks, fundamental, and expansion skills. Fundamental skills are necessary for successful everyday functioning. Building blocks are prerequisites to a fundamental skill. Expansion skills are non-essential skills, but may provide further enrichment in certain areas. After reviewing the activities available to you, you can quickly add your chosen activities to the treatment plan by simply checking the box and clicking the button. Step 3. Start treatment. Once you have selected and added the activities you want, you are ready to begin teaching. Skills provide you with all the tools necessary to design and manage an effective curriculum plan, such as printable activity guides that are customizable by the teacher, supplemental teaching aids including printable data sheets, teaching guides, visual aids, worksheets, and tracking forms, detailed IEP goals and benchmarks for each activity, brief and visually appealing video tutorials, a variety of treatment progress and clinical timeline charts, and lots more. And since Skills is completely web-based, everything you need is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in one easy-to-access location. Skills users even benefit from unlimited access to a support community, where they can ask questions and share ideas with a skills expert. Skills is always with you.
It's that time of the day when we talk about viewer responses to our questions of the day, and because it's Thursday and Wednesday is always such a whirlwind, we usually talk about Wednesday and Thursday on Thursday. Love the responses that you guys wrote in about what your child's favorite toy is. These are a scream, I gotta tell you. I think people in general are interesting because what people find interesting and reinforcing is so, I don't know, it's just so interesting. You know, when I meet somebody and I say, so, you know, I'm talking to somebody and you say, so what kinds of things are you into? When they talk about the thing that they're passionate about, don't you love that? I love when people are individuals and not just, you know, oh, well, I like blue. And And everybody is an individual, right? But for instance, I meet an accountant, I go, that is fascinating. You really love being an accountant? And when you meet an accountant that loves being an accountant, and they talk about how they love numbers, I just think passion is really exciting in anyone. And our children get really passionate about things that they really like. This is a plus for us because, first of all, it's interesting. It makes them individual. And it's stuff that they find reinforcing. So, and that's a great tool in our toolbox, knowing what they find reinforcing. So somebody wrote in and said Power Ranger figures. Several people said iPads, and we certainly hear a lot about that. Someone else said at this minute, the VTech video camera. That's an exciting thing. Love this one, a flattened, wrinkled, old McDonald's straw. Absolutely fascinating. But you know, somebody else down the line says that's so funny because their child was really into straws last year, but now they're into something else. I'll get to that when I get to it. But not the only child that's into a flattened, wrinkled, old McDonald's straw. I can remember when as a teenager, we could sit and play with a straw to a paper for hours and do all kinds of things with it as a teenager. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. Another person said his imagination is his favorite toy. How great is that? A piece of sketch paper and a color pen. You know, during the holidays, we did a whole special on toys, and we did actually a whole series, and we shared a blog that a dad had written about the 5 greatest toys of all time, and said, you know, dirt, water, a stick, string, and cardboard. These are the 5 greatest toys of all time. They require supervision, of course, but it is amazing what you can do. I remember years ago getting a box in the mail, and it sat out on the coffee table for a day because we just didn't get around to recycling it, and my son had so much fun with it that we went and got a bunch more boxes, and he pieced together this whole robot and had so much more fun than anything we'd ever done before. So a piece of sketch paper and a color pen, I love that. Love this one too, balls. Balls, any size, any color, as long as he can spin it on his calloused finger. I think we have, and then LOL, I think we have a Harlem Globetrotter in our midst. Love this one too, gloves. Latex, baseball, batting, gardening, anything with 5 fingers he can wear. Love that. Another person who says a red stuffed bear, its name is Bear Bear, and it goes everywhere with her. Love it. Another person says anything with wheels. And another person says me, it seems that I have become the jungle gym, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah, I don't know. We have days, even now with my son, and he's so big now, but especially when he was little, where my husband would come home from work and I would say, help me. He is climbing me like I am a tree. He always wanted to sit on top of my head. It was just something that he wanted to do, and there are still times when he thinks that he has a much younger, more fit mother who can carry a 70-pound tall 9-year-old on one ear on my head. It's crazy. Another person writes in and says, Godzilla and the noises my son can make are incredible. Send us a video. We'd be happy to show it. By the way, anytime you want to show us something, send us a video. We'll show it on the show. His big trucks. Here's the person who said, my son played with straws last year, LOL. He now likes his Sheriff Woody doll because he can twist his arms and legs like he used to do with his straws. Gotta love that. Have you guys seen that, the fazzoodles? What I love about the fazzoodles is that they're like pipe cleaners, but they're thicker and they're more durable, and they don't have the sharp ends on the end of them. And you can twist them into all kinds of shape and then add things like Mr. Potato Head to it. They have eyes and purses and shoes you can add to them. They're really cool, and the cleanup is instead of Play-Doh. Love fazzoodles. And it has that straw kind of element to it. Okay, another person says, my son's favorite tool is his red bike. Love that. Semi-truck and Thomas the Train for somebody else. Dinosaurs, farm animals, and books and music. Your kids are all creative. I love these. Another person who says tree branches and antennas. Now, see, that's interesting. His Xbox, oh, please. My son, if we're gone for any length of time, will come back and kiss, you know, the Xbox. It's just crazy. Wrestlers and his Nintendo Wii. The touchpad to play Angry Birds. Any and all squishy rubber animals. She loves the texture. Excuse me. Another person says iPad and small cars. Another person who says his hand. Now, to some extent, you know, some of these things can be great. Like your hand being a toy is very creative. We don't want it to be perseverative, right? To the point where the child can't do something because we will see some children who get involved with their hands and playing with their hands and can't let go of it. So some of these things, you know, they're great things but have the potential to be, all of them have the potential, really, if it's the only thing. Her Leap Pad and Veggie Tales movies. Another person says anything with water. Boy, we really saw that last week that I don't remember what the question was we asked, but your kids really, all of our kids really love water. I think that's really interesting. Love this one. A stop sign and a go sign his teacher made him. He uses it on us at home when he gets upset or doesn't want us to talk or stop an activity. He flashes the sign at us. Because, you know, teachers will do that sometimes. They'll just hold, instead of drawing attention to something, if somebody's engaging in a behavior that's challenging the class or challenging them, they hold up a red saying, you know, you got to watch your behavior, or yellow in some cases. And so the teacher made it, and he brings it home, and he's using it to communicate to mom and dad, hey, you know, I need you to stop what you're doing. That's functional communication. Gotta love it. Got to love it. Okay, another person says Curious George and puzzles. I don't understand. It looks like Tarzan for the next one. Bubbles and an 8-foot stuffed purple snake, then his dinosaurs. The 8-foot stuffed purple snake. I got to know what the name of that snake is. Please write and tell us. Another person says he loves when his dad tickles him, so I would have to say his dad and Lego Ninjago men from his sets. Very popular amongst the young boys right now, I know. Another person says, my son, who is 4 years old, is into paging through books, magazines, and printed papers in general. He is not verbal yet, but we find this very interesting. We are not sure what goes on in his mind as he pages through and stares at the pages like anyone would if they were reading. He can do this all day. Has anyone experienced similar activity with their child? And I got to tell you, I have heard this from many different people. It would be interesting to have your child looked at to see if they're hyperlexic, because there are some kids who learn to read on their own and are just miraculously able to read very young. So it would be interesting to see if he is actually reading it or is just so very interested in what's on the paper and hasn't yet figured out how to decode. But if he's 4, you know, you really can start to teach reading at this point if he doesn't already know how to. It would be interesting to have somebody look at. But you're certainly not the only person that I've heard that from, that your child is interested in printed material. What an exciting thing. Because if he doesn't know how to decode, when he does, ooh, wow. If he finds it that reinforcing, he's going to be a reader. Another person who says cars. And here's one, not obsessed with letters, but with numbers. Says, my 3-year-old is obsessed with numbers, so we gave him a deck of playing cards, and he loves them. I think, you know, we all have strengths. Everybody does. It was interesting. We were watching America's Got Talent last night with my mom and my son, and my mom wanted to show us one particular person from a show that had been on a couple of days ago. And in the process of watching, we were watching another young kid who was dressed in a very specific way that everybody sort of judged who he was and how he was going to be based on how he looked. Very goth looking, right? And he came out and sang this aria, this opera aria that was just not what you would expect from this very goth looking gentleman. And he stood there with his, he had the white contacts on, so he's looking almost like a wolf with this very black sheath of hair and black eye makeup on and everything. And they were talking to him. He'd never ever sung before anybody before, and he was very emotional. The audience stood, and the boy stood there, and he said, "I'm not good at anything." Right? And as you know, as a mother, I was like, oh, child, that's just so not true, right? But what I loved was my son was sitting next to me on the couch, and he, as I'm thinking that's not true, he says, that's not true. Everybody's good at something. And I hugged him and I said, that's so right. And nobody can be good at everything, right? And he goes, yeah, and he's a really good singer, Mom. And then, of course, the judges said that to him. They're like, you're not allowed to say that anymore because you're not just a good singer, you're a great singer. And so you are great at something. And, of course, the kid cried, and his parents were crying. It was this lovely emotional moment. But I loved that my son said, everybody's good at something, because it's true. Everybody has a strength in some area. And for our kids, it's really interesting to see what their strengths are, what their interests are. And nobody has to be great at everything. But when we take their strengths and we use them as reinforcement to pull up some of the skills that maybe they're not going to be great at, but we want them to at least be as proficient as they can be, it's a really effective tool, effective way of reaching them. And there's no reason not to encourage strengths. As long as your child is not obsessed to the point of nothing else, if they're really into reading or they're really into numbers, let those strengths flourish, right? Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so from today, and of course I'm pretty much out of time on this, but from today, some of you have written in about what summer activities you have planned. A lot of hiking and camping. Oh my goodness. One of you wrote in and said your child who, and specified, said my child who is autism spectrum disorder child, likes camping, riding his bike, and swimming. He also likes blowing bubbles with me. That'll be fun. Another person wrote in and said beach trips and zoo trips. Somebody else who says, we're hoping for a camping/fishing trip, but I have one that loves it and one that hates it. Makes for an interesting weekend. Absolutely. Everybody doesn't find everything reinforcing. I have always said that my middle name is I don't camp. I told my husband that when we started dating. I said, I'm just letting you know, my name is Shannon. I don't camp, Penrod. I've been a couple of times. It's not my thing. I do not find it reinforcing. And you know what? You don't want to take me camping, because I'm one of those people who complains and goes, it's cold, it's hot, I just got a bug bite. Why can't we be like someplace that has hot water? I don't like the bathroom. Nobody wants to go camping with me. Even in an RV, it's just not a good thing. I spent 2 summers living in RVs. It's not a good thing. But some people love it. Difficult when you have one of each. Another person said, my son will go to the holiday center next to my home, but he will also go to the beach and the local zoo of our city. I think that's wonderful. You know, I don't have a plan, and I know not as many of you wrote in, I noticed, to this question, because maybe you're like me, you don't have a plan yet. But a couple of years ago, you know, when I was over planning, I needed play dates badly for my son. And I think it was the summer he was 5, maybe. And he desperately needed play dates, and money was scarce. And so I planned a bunch of free events, or close to free events, on Thursdays, and we called it Thursdays with Jem, and I invited all the moms of all the kids that he went to school with, and I had this big plan that there were going to be like 40 of us going to the beach one Thursday, and going to the Skirball Center to the Noah's Ark Museum on this other Thursday, and going to the Travel Town Train Museum, which is free, on another Thursday. It didn't work out that way. I usually had 1 or 2 kids come to each Thursday, but we had somebody come each Thursday. And actually that was much better. It was much more manageable. But I can tell you, not a lot of stuff happened the rest of the week, but those Thursdays, and I had a calendar and I sent it out to everybody, and we got a lot of stuff done. And I kind of want to go back to that this summer and plan one day of the week. And I picked Thursdays because here in Los Angeles, a lot of museums and centers, either on a Tuesday or a Thursday, they have free day where it's open, which means it's a crazy day. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more people to fight against, and a lot more sensory issues going on. But you know, I figured one day a week that was probably a good thing. So even if you're sitting there and thinking, I just can't afford it, look up kids' activities online in your community and put in free. What is there to do free? Even, I'd heard about a group of moms that got together, and that's what inspired me to do this, a group of moms who got together and said, we're going to do one day a week, and we're going to rotate it so that everybody has one day a month amongst these 4 or 5 moms that did it. And they had the kids would come to their house that 1 week out of the month on that one day, and they would have activities planned and a lunch date planned, and that it gave their kids this really grounded sort of summer. You know, ask yourself what you're capable of, what you can do versus what you can't do, because there might be some other moms who'd like to help you and create. I do think it's great to switch it up from time to time. It becomes a wonderful place to work on all kinds of skills, whether it's that you're working with your child, with their friends on play skills or social skills or language skills, but also exposing them to a world of things. My son loves to go to museums now. He just loves it because he thinks that this is a great event. He said, oh, go to a museum? He'd love to go to a museum and look at paintings or whatever. I took him to the Arboretum. I had some friends in town 3 weeks ago, and they said, let's meet at the Arboretum. And I said, I'm going to bring my son. And I think they were a little like, you know, what's that going to be like? He loved it and was the life of the party, looking at things. And it just got built in with him that this is really reinforcing. We go with friends. We learn something new. He finds it really exciting. So find something, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It could be free, but it expands your world, gets you out, gets them out. It's a place to work on things. Don't do more than you can, but at least one thing across the summer that will be fun. Have a plan. All right, we have to take a break. When we come back, though, we are going to talk about the executive functions tip of the week. A little bit later at the top of the hour, shortly after the top of the hour, we're going to have Tiffany O'Day with us talking about some really exciting things that are happening around the world, particularly with the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, because they might be coming to a place very close to you, which I would love for you. That'd be my wish for you. Stick with us. We're going to be back in a minute.
I'm Adele Nadowski, Director and Co-Creator of Skills. CARD e-learning is an online tool that has been developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD e-learning is the training that is delivered to the ABA therapists at CARD to train them on the principles of applied behavior analysis and to equip them with the knowledge they need to essentially deliver the ABA-based techniques during their therapy with the children that they work with. ABA has been proven scientifically to be the most effective intervention for children with autism. At this point, even the Surgeon General has come out with a statement suggesting just that. So we know that this is something that children with autism definitely need if they're going to improve and live the lives that we're hoping that they're going to be able to live. By being able to train people on this one particular method that we know works, and to be able to have all of your staff within your school settings on the same page, it allows you to take more of a multidisciplinary approach, and there's definite consistency going on within the team. It makes sure that every person involved with that child's treatment program, including the speech and language pathologist, the occupational therapist, the teachers, the aides, all of these individuals to be able to be trained so that they can all work together effectively with the child. Parents that are using CARD e-learning can use it either to train themselves, and then after having done that they can implement different techniques with their child in order to teach new skills. But oftentimes parents might also be working either with an ABA provider, with a school, or they may have even hired their own therapist to deliver the intervention techniques. So CARD e-learning can be used either to collaborate with your school. It can also be used to train the therapists that are coming to the home of the parents, or it can also be shared with the ABA provider so that that provider can find out about it and perhaps implement it within their organization and train their staff. You can also do reporting for your organization. So you can actually look and find out which teachers are progressing, what their quiz scores are, and actually we can give you reports as well that will help you to compare the different teachers and their performances. CARD e-learning is really simple to use. You can log on to this as long as you have a computer, that's all you need, and an internet connection. And you can work on it any time of the day, anywhere that you're at. When you log on, you realize that right away. First of all, on the top of the page, there's a navigational tutorial. It's a how to use this page button. Simply by watching that video, it'll all kind of unfold in front of you, and it becomes extremely self-explanatory. CARD e-learning has 9 modules, and you can basically go through those at your own pace. You're going to be watching videos that are kind of like a storyboard with narration, but in addition to that, there's many different video clips of therapists actually implementing the techniques that are being described within the storyboard that you can also watch. And then of course you're able to pause, you're able to type notes right directly underneath the video that you're watching. You can save your notes, you can review them, and between each module you do take a quiz, and once you pass that quiz you can go on to the next module. And then after you complete all of them, you have a final exam. And by completing the final exam and passing with a score of 85% or better, you will be given a certificate of completion. Let me show you how easy it is to use CARD e-learning.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we are talking right now about executive functions. And this is an area where we all want our children to excel, right? But it can be a really difficult area, and there's so much help for autism in this day and age. However, there aren't a lot of people that will take on executive functions, even amongst ABA. And I mentioned to you guys earlier that I use skills, and I'm really excited about skills, and I have a personal attachment to it. It's the lessons that my son got when he was at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and I'm using it now since he graduated from his ABA program. But one of the things that I especially love about it is that it has an executive functions curriculum, and it also has a cognition curriculum, which you're not going to find anyplace else. Quite frankly, and they're really, really amazing, broken down into categories that really help our children. It's like the missing piece of the puzzle, you guys. You know, we talk about that all the time. What's the missing piece? What's the missing piece? And you can teach skills to a child, and the child, we know the child can learn skills and reach a higher potential for having learned those skills. But then there's sort of that bridge, that gap between how they do things and how a typically developing child does things, that usually it's that missing puzzle piece of that one last little element of understanding how to put it all together. And I really feel like this executive functions curriculum is especially that missing puzzle piece, because it allows our child to put together all the things that they've learned to be able to accomplish goals, to see if they're goals, if they're on track to be able to do them, if they're getting it done. And if they're not, what to do to get it done. Not just to learn a skill, like you learn how to brush your teeth, you learn how to tie your shoes, you learn how to put your backpack on your shoulder, you learn how to pull your pants up, right? But then being able to say, I'm getting ready for school from beginning to end, and I'm going to get it done in this amount of time so that I'm on time to school and prepared and feel good about how I look and have that pride of being able to do that, and I know where my homework is. That's a lot to put together. Well, the executive functions curriculum helps our child to do that. It helps our teenager to be able to do that with all of their schoolwork and all of their social, creating, asking somebody out, asking to get together with friends, all of those different elements to be able to apply for college. It really helps in terms of goal setting. But one important area of the executive functions curriculum is self-control. Emotional self-control, being able to know where they are in space and time, how they're feeling, and how to control themselves, so that in that moment that they're not behaving in a way that they're not caught off guard, and allow the emotions. I know, I'm thinking, don't we all know some adults that could benefit from this, right? It's not just our kids on the spectrum. I happen to think the executive functions curriculum and skills is great for all of us. I use it personally for me, not just for my son. But in any case, self-control, being able to breathe, to understand that what you're feeling is feelings, and to be able to control those feelings, to not squash them down, to acknowledge that the feelings are there, to say why, be able to communicate and say why you're upset, whether it's vocalization or writing it down or being able to sign it, but to be able to communicate what you're feeling and to not let it get the better of you. To, I talked the other day about there was a moment I was walking out of my son's school and it was pickup, very busy time, and there was another little boy that I know that is not in my son's class, but I know him, and another child from his classroom, as they were walking out the gate, had walked up. He had already told the child that he had a sunburn, and the child, I don't know whether it was deliberate or not, but grabbed his neck right on the sunburn. And this child was furious, of course, because he had just said to him, hey, don't touch me there because I have a sunburn. But how he chose to deal with it was that he took his backpack off and was swinging it, about to hit the other kid in the head. Now, I intervened as a parent who was standing there and went, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's talk about what just happened, right? But the executive functions curriculum teaches this to our child so that it doesn't get to that point, right? Because we all want our children to be able to behave and get along with other children and advocate for themselves and express how they're feeling even when we're not there, right? Isn't that the truth of things? So there are lessons in the executive functions curriculum that help our children to be able to do that. Self-control, it's a great, great thing. We're going to take a break and we're going to be back in just a minute with our myth of the day, and then Tiffany O'Day at the
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son, Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot. You might know that Home Depot is famous for giving free classes to adults on lots of things like tiling and other home crafts. Well, they also have free classes for kids as well. It's called the Kids Workshop. We love doing that, don't we, Jem?
Yeah.
It's cool. So come on inside with us and let's do a craft.
Yay.
The Kids Workshop is a program that's been around with Home Depot almost since we've been a company, and it's been developed to allow kids in the community to come in and give them an opportunity to build something, to be able to create something and be able to take just simple wood pieces and put them together with nails and hammers and screwdrivers and then paint them.
So you do this every first Saturday of the month.
Any Home Depot that you go to on the first Saturday of every month between 9 and 12, you can join different associates throughout different stores and build these projects with these kids.
And do they have to do anything beforehand, or can they just show up on that Saturday?
All they need to do is show up. We have all the tools, all the materials that the kids will need. We have aprons that we give to the kids that they can take home and maintain their pins. They get pins on a regular basis for completing projects. With that, they can keep track of how many projects they've done. And
it's all free.
It's all absolutely free, all provided.
Which is wonderful. And listen, I have to say, you guys devised this for all kids to be able to do this.
Correct.
What I particularly love about it as an autism mom, it gives my child a place to come and learn a new skill, to socialize with kids of all kinds.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. Home Depot is definitely love to be involved with the community and bring the community in to work with us. That's what we love to do.
Welcome back to Autism Live. You just saw we took a trip to the Home Depot and we had a great time. That was my son and some other young gentlemen who went with us and their mom. And they have a workshop every first Saturday of the month, as you heard, and it's free. I talked about things to do over the summer. You can go to your calendar right now and circle the first Saturday of each month. I know we just missed the June one, but you know you've got one coming up in July and you've got one coming up in August. It's free. You can go. You don't have to plan the play date if you don't want to, because there are going to be other kids there that you have the opportunity to socialize with, or you can invite the other kids from other moms, other dads that your child likes to play with, and tell them it's free and they get to do a free craft. They get to paint the craft. It's usually centered centered on whatever the month is. So I'm sure that whatever the 4th of July, or since it's around the 4th of July, it'll be something having to do with Independence Day. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to get your child out to an event, have them working on social language skills. They're also going to get to work on fine motor. They're going to get to do some arts and crafts kinds of things. And sometimes there's an activity afterwards. In the month that we went, they were making a race car, and they had a track for them to race the cars down. It's a really fun thing. You gotta love that the Home Depot does that. It's really a fabulous. We salute Home Depot for doing that. I take my child on a monthly basis. By the way, if your child has a lot of sensory issues, you might want to work up to it slowly, because you go and there's a lot of hammering that will happen that's very noisy. They've been so understanding about, if I take my child, that he might be able to stay in the beginning. He could stay for maybe 5 minutes, and then we'd say, we'll finish the rest of this at home. If there's a day when he's having an off morning, or if he's been sick, we pick up the craft and we go home to do it, or save it for a rainy day. They're really very considerate about taking our kids and where they are on that given day into consideration. They don't just have this for children on the spectrum. This is for all children. What a great way to get a free inclusion opportunity for your child. The kids love it. And it's very fun for the parents too, I have to say. And did I mention it's free? You gotta love that. So Home Depot, yay for them. Visit them the first Saturday of July and August, and then you'll want to do it the rest of the year too. Really, really fun. I promised you the myth of the day. It's kind of in keeping with some of the things that we have been talking about today, that all of our kids, they're going to have skill sets in different areas, right? And sometimes there'll be something a little more extreme that they're really, really good at, right? And sometimes they have an area where they really have a skill deficit. Unfortunately, one of the myths that is pervasive with autism is that there are children, that all children who have autism are savants, or on the other end, that all children who are savants are intellectually challenged. So neither one of these things are true. Certainly, there are some children who have other differences of abilities as well as autism, right? That happens, and sometimes a child is twice exceptional. Of course, we see that in some instances, but it is not the vast majority of our children. And there are some cases where a child has savant abilities, where they're just incredible, inexplicable talents in different areas. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But that's certainly not the vast majority of our children. They have a strength, but we wouldn't call them a savant. So we do want to make sure that we are careful as parents and teachers and practitioners, that we're presenting a united front to the world and letting everybody know our children are all individuals, and they come in all shapes, all sizes, and all abilities. That as we watch our children, we take them for who they are and what they are, and we work with them to reach their highest potential, and that we encourage the world to see them as individuals as well, and not pigeonhole them into, how often do we meet somebody who says, we ask them what they know about autism, and they say, well, I've seen Rain Man. You know? I was just talking to my mother last night, and she was talking about in her group of lady friends that there are still so many people who don't understand autism. And I said, I know it's hard for our community, because we get frustrated sometimes and say, really, do we just need autism awareness? Aren't we there? But we're not. Truly, we're not. And it is, unfortunately, part of the job that we didn't plan on taking on, but to let the world know about our individual children. But it is something that we can do in dribs and drabs, so that the world is a better place, more accepting of our kids. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to be joined by the wonderful Tiffany O'Day. She's going to be talking to us about some of the different things that are going on for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders around the world. There's something really exciting happening in Massachusetts, which we've asked her specifically to come in and talk to us. You won't want to miss it. Stick with us.
My name is Crystal Shepard.
I'm Pete.
And our son Logan was diagnosed in February of 2003. Wow, it seems like a long time ago. Yeah. We were fortunate enough to find CARD when he was 20 months old. said, you need to go to this place, I've researched it, you need to go right now. So I went and knocked on the door, and we found Doreen.
Doreen, we sat down, and I'll never forget what she said. She goes, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get him caught up and make sure he never falls behind again. I was like, that's it, you know.
He's a very fun, popular kid.
Rock star.
Rock star. He's a drummer, quite an accomplished drummer. He never stops talking. He's got a funny story and a smile for everybody that he meets. And it's pretty amazing. He's a completely different kid. Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
My name's Monica.
And I'm Mark.
And we have a son, Riley, and he is autistic.
Riley was almost completely non-communicative at the time that he was diagnosed. Really no language, no interest in speaking. And one of the big changes is he independently states a lot of things now.
I need to walk.
You need to walk? Make him walk. Asks for things that he wants, responds appropriately.
Hi, Daddy, going.
Oh, so nice. We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider. And if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Teacher has some glasses.
And now she engages with everybody. It's wonderful. She likes to play, and she's very affectionate, and she expresses that now. Her language has gotten a lot better just in the last 4 months. It's amazing.
Since starting with CARD, Amaya has made a ton of progress, and we couldn't be more grateful that she has become potty trained, started using utensils individually. She is learning how to navigate public, is holding our hands, and is just wanting to be around people more. So we're so grateful for everything that you guys have done.
Hi, Dr. Grandpa. Congratulations on your 20-year anniversary of CARD. I love all my CARD teachers. They are the best. And now I'd like to play you a Beatles song. It's called Cross the Universe.
I first saw Dr. Grandpa speak at a biomedical conference somewhere, and I was just so impressed with her. She stood up there and she talked with such confidence about recovery and what she could do for these children, and she had a whole curriculum, and I was just so impressed. But she said things like, you know, teach them, help them to develop these other skills that they have. And I thought that was so neat hearing that from her, that it would be good for them socially and help them to bridge with others. And so over the years, that's actually something my son has developed. You know, if he hadn't had speech therapy or OT over the years, he probably would be just about, you know, pretty much the same child still, not so different. But if he hadn't had CARD, I mean, he would be a completely different child. This program has unlocked the door for him to have a bright future.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
My name is Rachel Pokorski, and I have a son, Kyle Pokorski, who's 7 years old now.
Cool art by Kyle.
Around 15 months, we noticed that he had lost some speech, that he was head banging, he had tantrums, and we were lucky. We waited and we got in with card, and it started working right away.
I have another exciting feature. If you put more marbles in, they alternate.
He's in a second grade class. He's at the top of his class. He reads over 100 words a minute. He's reading at 5th grade level. He loves space and astronomy, and he'll tell you, you know, why does Venus rotate backwards? Yeah, why don't the marbles go up? Why do they go down?
Because gravity.
And he's always wanting to know more.
Why you're the one that takes the microphone?
He loves to surf.
First, I didn't want to surf, but now I love to surf.
He loves to horseback ride.
I won a trophy.
You have made a difference in his life.
Card helped me to save.
I owe everything to you. Now, who built this?
I did.
And are you a good builder?
Yes!
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. And our special guest right now is the wonderful and fabulous Tiffany O'Day. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm really excited to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. And you are the Director of Marketing and Operations here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders.
Correct.
That is quite a job title.
I've been here for 8 years now, going on 9. So I've wore many different hats and had lots of different great experiences. I like them all. In operations, I focus more on how the offices are doing and, you know, making sure that they're giving the best services possible, and also looking at expanding to new locations.
Wonderful.
And then in marketing, it's lots of fun, creative things and getting the word out.
Tiffany is one of those people we talked about earlier today that, you know, I was saying that it's not just me sitting here, that there are, this has spiders and legs. There are people all over the world that are trying to help our kids, and Tiffany is one of those people that you don't get to see very often, but she's hard at work making things possible for you wherever you are. So part of that team that we don't hear so much about, but that we should. I'm humbled all the time by the work that you guys do that has a direct effect on our families and our kids, and it's amazing. And you've got something really exciting coming up that I asked you to come and talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about what's happening in Massachusetts.
Yes, we are opening our 21st office in Massachusetts. The office itself is in Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is between Boston and Cape Cod. But luckily we can serve the entire region, and we're serving all of Metro Boston as well as down the coast and the whole of Cape Cod.
Wow.
We had a really great relationship with a bunch of families down in Sandwich, which is a little town just as you enter Cape Cod, and they were just on us to open an office and offered to help us and get the word out. And now we have 15 clients and about 15 therapists working there. And we're getting ready to have our grand opening on June 30th, coming right up. And so we're just going to have like a family-friendly event. You can bring your kids. There's going to be activities. There are going to be, you know, refreshments. A short presentation by our managers there. We have a clinical manager named Ben Craighead, who previously worked at our Austin office. He's been a supervisor for 3 or 4 years now. He's amazing. The families, the kids love him. And then his wife is actually our business manager. So it's a husband-wife team. And she also worked at our Austin office and will be the sort of behind the scenes taking care of starting up new clients and hiring therapists. And so it'll be an opportunity for people to meet the managers and meet our therapists and meet other families too.
And we've met Ben Craighead before. We interviewed him last last year at the retreat, a really wonderful gentleman. Really excited for him that he's going to be heading up this opportunity, and hopefully in the coming weeks, he's pretty busy, I understand right now, but we'll hopefully have an opportunity to Skype in with him before the opening to have a conversation about that, so you guys can get to know him a little bit better. But let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of this. If somebody wants to attend the event, what kinds of things that they should be doing? And I know Emily put up on the screen there for a second, and she probably will again, so that people know where to check in, but what do they need to do?
Sure. So it's on Saturday, June 30th, and it's in the afternoon. We tried to make it in a good time for families to attend. It's from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We are going to have, it's at the office location is 118 Long Pond Road in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and there'll be
a quaint little
lots.
name.
I know, it's such a cute.
So Massachusetts.
It's such a cute town. I'm so excited. I can't wait to go and visit. There'll be lots of signs and balloons, so people will be able to find it. And we would appreciate RSVPs. Our marketing manager, Daphne Plump, is taking those RSVPs, and she's at dplump@centerforautism.com. So just shoot her an email, say we'd like to come, so we can make sure we have enough food and activities, and just come on out.
What I love is that they can bring the kids, because we know if you're home and you're trying to figure this out, you know, having to find a babysitter is just that much more difficult, but bring your child with you. Bring the whole family, everybody but the dog. Yep. We don't want to bring the dog.
Well, that could be fun too.
Well, it could turn into something else. Leave the dog at home, but bring all the kids with you. You'll have an opportunity to meet Ben Craighead, and there will be some other people as well that are there. In fact, Emily Goodwin, who we talk about on the show, who is our technical director, will be there. You'll have an opportunity to meet her. And we talk about the fact that Emily is Martha Stewart meets MacGyver, so she's somebody you should meet. She will be there and taking pictures and potentially interviewing some of you, so that will be a lovely event. And who else will be there? Do you know yet? Because I know...
Well, all of the therapists are going to be there, and they're actually going to be organizing all the activities. So it will be nice that parents can look around, can talk to Ben and Stephanie, and know that their parents will be their kids will be taken care of. And then we are actually in the process of organizing an event where Dr. Graham Pichet will be going out.
Wonderful.
And I know I probably shouldn't say this because people get excited, and we don't have the exact date scheduled yet. But I'm hoping it will be in August or September, and that will probably be in Boston, in the city, and we'll do a one-day workshop. And typically on those days we'll have Dr. Graham Pichet do you know, a couple hours on our program, the card model, ABA, and then we have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox goes out and does a talk on behavior management or anything. We kind of research what the families are interested in and what are the hot topics. And we'll probably have a few other guest speakers. Sometimes we can get some of our former clients to come out and talk about their experience with CARD and beyond. We have several wonderful former clients who actually work for us now and come out to these events, and they're a huge draw because they're so articulate, and families can really see, you know, the results of their hard work.
Don't we all want to see that? I mean, you know, anytime, and I've said this before to people in the office, anytime I can see somebody, I want to see both the young men and the young women, but I'm especially, because I have a son, interested in seeing the young men who are in their 20s who had ABA therapy when they were younger, and to hear them speak. I will walk across ice uphill in the winter with no shoes on to see that, because it gives me the juice to continue on and do what we're doing. It gives me the hope. And I know you guys have said the same thing, so pretty excited.
We might need to invite your son to come and present sometime.
At some point, you know, have you met my son, Tiffany? He loves that. I said to him a couple of years ago, it was a Saturday, and he didn't have therapy, a rare Saturday, a couple of years ago, and I said, what would you like to do today? He said, I'd like to set up a table somewhere and sign autographs. This is what he said. This is my son. So he would love it. Yeah, this is, you know, he is a ham, so yes, someday, not yet though.
Okay. right.
He's not there yet.
We'll put him on the list.
Yeah, somewhere down the road. I'll look forward to that too. I'll be the person weeping in the background because it all makes me verklempt. But in any case, it sounds like a wonderful event and something to come to. Totally free. Have to make sure that people know that. A great way to come and see what's about to happen at the open house. And again, as Tiffany was just saying, there'll be something later on, and you know I'll keep you posted on that so that you can all be attending that as well. But really exciting when an office opens up. A really, really big thrill. And as you heard Tiffany say, it came about because there were a group of parents who said that they wanted it. And you know how this is, squeaky wheel.
Those parents. They're very persistent.
Yes, and it gets it done. And so we're going to take a little bit of a break, but when we come back, we're going to have Tiffany tell us, wherever you are in the world, if you want a card office to open there, how you make that happen. It's not as hard as you think. So stick with us. We're going to be back in just a minute.
So basically, when we talk about how to teach safety, there are so many levels and areas of safety to teach, but we try to first start off in teaching a simpler level. So for example, let's say we're trying to teach the child to stay within their yard and not run out of their yard. The first thing that we're probably going to work on is inside, in a more controlled setting, teach them to stop when we say stop. Or come when we ask them to come. And then when they're successful in the structured, non-distracting environment, then we're going to take them outside to the front yard and teach them, okay, when I say stop, you're supposed to stop.
Stop. Good stopping, Jack.
We're also going to make sure that when we initially give them the instruction, we're at a close enough distance that we can help them to stop. So then they don't develop a pattern of running away when we've called them and not stopping. Once they're consistently responding within a close distance, then we're going to gradually increase the distance so that they're responding from a further distance. And then we can also teach some kids that here are your boundaries and this is the area you have to stay in. Or when we go somewhere, you have to always be able to see me. And let's say, or you have to be an arm's length distance away from me. So teaching rules that the child will follow when they go out in public.
And there are so many different areas. You know, we've been talking about escape and elopement and things like that, but you know, then there's also stranger danger. And that becomes a dicey thing, and then I think it's individual to each and every family. You know, I know people who say you're not allowed to talk to strangers, other people who say you're not allowed to talk to strangers unless I'm also talking to them, if I'm talking to them. And then, of course, you know, we have to be careful about teaching them which strangers, because if they're lost, obviously we don't want the kid who's hiding in the bush as the policeman goes by, you know, somebody, how to recognize who in the community. So there are so many different lessons that I can think of that a child has to be taught in order to fully be able to generalize 100% of the time how to behave within a circumstance.
And we go piece by piece then. So for example, with stranger awareness, we could possibly teach it through photographs first and say, you know, is this person a stranger? How do you know that they're a stranger? If they're a stranger, what can you do with them? Like, can you ride home with them? No. Can you accept something from them? No. Well, what if this, you know, giving them many different scenarios, like you were saying, so that they know exceptions of when it is okay and when it's not okay. And then also acting it out as well.
Yeah.
So I say, I'm so-and-so and I'm at the grocery store and I'm offering you a sample of candy, but I work at the store, you know, and mom is with you. So knowing when to make exceptions and when it's okay to do something versus not doing something. And then, of course, sometimes you can also set up a situation. So for example, you tell your best friend that you're going to the store and that maybe your child's never met that person before, and they approach your child and act out something that you've been practicing. And, you know, fortunately, because you've set it up,
you know how your child might react if it actually happens.
So that rehearsing something over and over and over again is really going to be key.
It's very important.
All right.
Yes.
Safety, it's the biggest issue. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. And our guest right now that we're having such a good time with is Tiffany O'Day. She is the Director of Marketing and Operations here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. You were just telling us about the new office opening in Boston. And we should say, because I think it's really important, that there's no waiting list.
Correct. We have staff waiting, and we've started training more and more therapists. We actually have had a huge interest from other supervisors across CARD to move to that area. So we actually have several other BCBAs, wonderful supervisors, who are at the ready to move there when we have more clients. So there's no waiting. Most of the clients, it's just a matter of getting their funding in place, which may take anywhere from a month to 2 months, but we do the intake during that time, and we acquaint them with our staff and our process. So it's a fast 2 months.
Okay, and we really want to encourage people, if you have any interest at all in getting ABA services, to go to the open house. I think it's essential to be there. You're going to get to meet the staff, you're going to get to meet the therapists, you're actually going to get to see them interacting with your children, which is a wonderful thing to view. And you'll get information and a little tidbit or something, because you're going to have a little bit of food there as well. So it'll be a really good time.
Little giveaways.
Little giveaways.
Yes. We're going to have some little giveaways.
Sounds fun. And Emily Goodwin, our technical director, will be there. She will have an opportunity to meet some of you and potentially even interview you if that's of interest to you. Don't have to if you don't want to. But I think that's incredible. No wait list. And if people know that they already want to get services, they can still come to the open house, but can they start signing up and start the process now?
Absolutely. You can go to the centerforautism.com, www.centerforautism.com. And on the homepage, there's a link to the CARD Massachusetts office, and just click that. It gives you all the information on how to either get the process started online, or you can also call the office directly. And I'll give you the phone number just in case. It's 508-732-0088. And that's directly to the office.
To the Boston office?
Yes, to the Plymouth office.
The Plymouth office,
covers the whole region. So whether you live in Boston, Plymouth, Cape, we are ready to serve that entire area.
Wonderful, wonderful. But now if you're not in the Massachusetts area and you're saying, okay, wait a second, this all sounds exciting, but I feel left out. There are many CARD offices around the world. You were saying this will be the 21st office. That's pretty impressive. So you really want to take a second and look at the CARD website, click on the locations tab, and see if somebody is close to you. But there are a lot of offices around the world, and there's the potential for more of them. And we were hearing Tiffany talk about how this Massachusetts office came about with a lot of parents, and I always say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if a parent is watching this and says, hey, I've heard Shannon talk, because I always say, a huge CARD fan, they gave me my child back. I make no bones about it, no apologies at all. I am the hugest CARD fan, and you should be too. And if you want it in your area, what do they need to do?
Well, having a parent advocate in a local city who can help us learn about the area, get connected with other parents and parent organizations, somebody who can educate us on, funding and, the government institutions that are involved is a huge leg up for us. And we fully take advantage of parents who want to help us out. And most of our offices did actually start that way, where with a parent who wanted to help and would not give up. And in Massachusetts, I mean, the whole process probably took maybe from, you know, that first group of parents saying, have you ever thought of it, to us starting a first local client was maybe a year and a half.
Wow.
So it's not that long, and we're getting better at it, at the process of opening and connecting with the right people. But if there are parents out there who, you know, think their community could use a card office, we would love to hear from them. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And typically, we need about 5 to 10 families to support a physical site, to take that step to open an office. And then, of course, we need to grow from there in order to, you know, be sustainable. But, you know, 5 to 10 families who, you know, are interested in the, you know, best ABA therapy there is to offer, and we'll take a look at it. We've gotten very good at training local staff. I'm very proud of the fact that we hire locally, and we're, you know, contributing to that local economy and training people in this awesome profession.
Yeah.
So getting local staff going quickly is pretty easy for us. We can train therapists in a month to 2 months, and we have supervisors that want to move and they want the challenge of opening a new office. So we have a group of therapists or supervisors who are willing to move to some of these new cities and actually launch sites for us.
It's an exciting opportunity for them. And what's great about it for you as the families is that you're helping the local economy by creating jobs, but you're not going to get just all people who are brand new. You've got a mix of staff who are very experienced with some new people who are very excited to have an opportunity. So it's a plus, plus, plus for everyone, because then your child is getting the best of care. So who would they call? Which site would you want them to visit if they've got a group of families together and they're thinking that they would like to have you come?
If you call our toll-free number, you'll speak with our customer service representatives. They keep track of this information and they give it to me regularly. If you say, I'm a parent in, you know, Tampa, Florida, I really think this would be a great market. I have a group of parents, we're familiar with CARD. We would love to help you open here. Our customer service group will let me know right away, and we can talk. You can also email me directly. I'm at t.O'Day, O-D-A-Y, at centerforautism.com, and my last name's O''D-A-Y. And I'd be happy to, you know, I kind of keep a running list, and we kind of check back. We are considering opening an office in Denver, Colorado, and we have a few sites in New Jersey, New York area. We're kind of probably try to sort of connect Boston all the way down to DC and hit kind of the major cities along that corridor. Most of our offices are now in California, but the demand is so high now on the East Coast, and so we're kind of looking at that for our next region to expand. But you know, we look at any city.
Right. Doesn't have to be a huge, big city either. If you've got enough people there that are interested, it really, I have to say, I hear it over and over and over again that when change comes, it's driven by the parents. We just went to the ABAI conference, and people were so excited there over and over and over again as I would ask them if we could interview them and talk to them on your behalf. And I would say, I'm a parent, and they would go, a parent? And it was like they'd cited some rare spotted owl or something at this conference. And they were so thrilled, you guys, to see. And it was like I had people hugging me saying, it's so great to have a parent here. We want more of you here because we know that you guys want what we have and you guys get things done. You parents, you get upset and you get things done. That it's been parents that have driven the insurance. It's been parents that have been driven where offices open. So it falls to you. If you're someplace and you want this for your child, we always talk to you about your local network and your global network that you're connected with of parents. Talk to your local network and say, who else is in this with me? You might make a really good friend and change your place that you live in forever. It could be really exciting. Yeah. Tiffany, this is fabulous. Are there other offices in particular that we want to talk about? That because there are 20 offices, we can't talk about all of them, but anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Well, many many of our California offices now we're hiring BCBAs for. We just have a huge, demand and lots of interest. So we are actually taking on clients in our Northern California offices in Berkeley and in San Jose. Our Sacramento office has capacity to take on new clients, in San Diego as well. Of course, Tarzana in our Los Angeles area. So if families are interested in any of these areas, we actually do have supervisors that can start cases pretty quickly, pending the funding situation. And usually we will have to hire some new therapists and get them trained up. But we also have a team of senior therapists that work with the newer therapists.
Right.
So we're ready. So just give us a call, and we'd love to help you out.
It's that first step that, it starts things in motion. So don't be afraid to do that. We do have the toll-free number. I think Emily can put it up there for you. Generally, when they call, they get Amy Fuentes, right?
Yes.
Amy's spectacular. Amy was one of my son's therapists and actually was one of our senior therapists for a long period of time. You can't be in better hands than Amy. So give Amy a call. Emily's going to put up that number for us here in just a second, and make that call. I always say, I know sometimes you're afraid you're going to get a no, but you know what? The no doesn't hurt any worse than not knowing. So call and start the process. You'll be amazed at where you end up, if you will. Tiffany, thank you so much for taking the time, because I know you're so busy.
No, my pleasure.
We'll have to have you back, and anytime you have something new happening, please promise us that you'll come down and tell us.
I would love to. I would love to.
Thank you so much. There's your toll-free number there. You can call Amy Fuentes. Tell her Shannon sent you. She'll appreciate that, and she has good gem stories. So, in any case, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with some more information just for you. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Monique Erickson. I'm a senior supervisor here at CARD in the training department.
How can we make a non-preferred outing, someplace that the child doesn't want to go, be less stressful and not be a battle?
Well, when you're looking at planning some of these outings to places that are a little more difficult for our kids, there's a lot of things you need to think about going in, and I think one of the first things you need to do is have a realistic expectation. It's going to be difficult, and it's not going to be something that you might be able to do right off the bat. There's some work that goes into that and a lot of steps that go into that. You're going to want to look back and look at the behaviors. What's happening in this outing? Why is it so difficult? Where does it break down? Do we not even get through the front door? Is that the problem? Or do we get through the front door and then my child has an agenda that doesn't match mine? And then that's what we need to work on. I've had lots of families where we've worked on this. This is definitely an area that we work on in our programs. And for example, I had one little boy where we couldn't even get through the front door. So that's what we practiced. And you had to have the expectation that you knew you weren't going to the store to shop this time. We were going to go and we were going to practice this thing. This behavior of entering for whatever reason was difficult for him. That's what we were going to practice and reinforce and take baby steps to this end behavior called grocery shopping that had all these little baby steps along the way. And just remember that it is difficult, that you have to step back and do all these steps to get there, but you will get there, and you're not going to get there if you don't practice it and do it. So you have to get out there and do it, as much as it may be difficult to be in the community and having these kind of meltdowns and these difficult behaviors with people around. You have to practice these skills to get them better. So it's important to do that. So for this little guy, we did just that. We took it from step one, he couldn't get through the door. We practiced that until that got better, and then we took on the next step. And eventually, he was able to participate in their grocery shopping. Not to say that it was an hour and it was perfect. It was more realistic. They had a few things on their list. He was able to go through, help get these things, and then they went on their way. But that took a lot of work and a lot of steps getting up to that point.
So what are some strategies for going to a big shopping center like a Walmart?
Some strategies just in general to keep in mind is, do you need some visual supports? Do you need some kind of visual thing, like first we're going to do this and then we're going to do this? Sometimes that's really helpful for our kids, just to know what to expect. Okay, this isn't going to last forever. We're just going to do a few things and then we get to leave this place and do something else. And that sometimes will help just alleviate that frustration that they don't really know what to expect. How long is this going to be? And so sometimes that visual support could help. you want to practice this realistically. You don't go from never having these outings to an hour, so you're building up systematically to these longer outings, so that eventually you get to a point of some duration that you can actually do something functional in that. You can actually get some items in the store and when you go there, versus just practicing a couple minutes here and there. So I think those are some things you want to think about early on. If you're going to that bigger store, I think for our kids, helpful to, depending on where their skill level is, and if you're practicing these skills, hopefully you can kind of give them, like, this is what's going to happen. This is what the rules are, kind of thing. This is what if you can do X, Y, and Z when you're in there, this is what will happen, kind of thing. Kind of be very concrete and give them an idea. Okay, we're going to go in and we're going to do this, and if you do this, this will happen. This is the behavioral contingency in place. If you don't, then we're going to need to leave, and then this will happen, kind of thing. But be very clear so that it's kind of like the rules are on the table. It's fair game. Like, we're going in, this is what's going to happen, and this is how it will be. When you're looking at stores like Walmart, very loud, lots of good stuff going on, I think just prepare yourself and be realistic about that. Is it going to be overstimulating? Can your child handle that? Do you need to take baby steps going into those bigger environments? Maybe know exactly what you need from that store. If you really need to do a lot of browsing and just taking your time, maybe is there a time that you will have an opportunity to not have to bring them with you for that, and only bring them when you have a specific agenda, like, I'm going in for these items, we're going to get them, and we're going to leave. So those are some things I would keep in mind when you're doing that.
What kinds of reinforcement should we give for doing a good job on an outing?
When you're doing these outings, something that is really important, it's important no matter what we're teaching, but definitely when you're out in the community and you're doing these type of outings that they're not preferred from our kids, you want to make sure you're always reinforcing those behaviors we want to see more of. As the cornerstone to what we do. You reinforce the behaviors you want to see more of, so they keep happening, and that's got to happen when you're in those community settings. So when the child is attending and he's sitting there quietly or helping you, gather things in the store, if that's what you're working on, you make sure you're appraising and reinforcing them, so that they know that this is a behavior we want to see more of. That may be, for some of our earlier learners, that may not just be verbal praise. It may have to be a tangible to get them through that situation. So it could be a little snack here and there to reinforce them and keep them on track. Like, oh, you're doing a great job. That's so good. I like the way you're sitting so quietly and waiting for mommy. Here's a little snack or something like that. So you might need something like that for those little ones that are early on in that experience. Or maybe you can just get to verbal praise at some point. Just depends on the learner, but you definitely want to keep them reinforced during that whole experience.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Wonderful interview that we just had with Tiffany O'Day about some of the offices opening up around the country, in particular in the Boston area. Very excited about that. And one of the things I mentioned and that we talked about is that if you want an ABA provider card in particular, specifically card near you, that really what it comes down to is you. And I know sometimes we get so overwhelmed as parents and we feel like, oh, it's all on me. If I don't do something, nothing's going to happen. Well, I love that Dr. Seuss quote about if someone like, Emily's going to have to find it for me. What is it? The one from the Lorax. What's the quote about something, Dr. Seuss, if a whole lot of people like you don't care, then nothing will change. It just won't. We'll find it. Emily's like, what are you talking about? But it's a Dr. Seuss quote from the Lorax. If a whole lot of people like you don't care, then nothing's going to change. It just won't. It's something like that. I'll find it, what the actual quote is. But in any case, it doesn't have to be just you. It's a whole group of people like you that have to say, we want something, right? So it's not all on you. And one of the things that I really, and I mentioned it briefly, having that local support group and the global support group, how important that is to you. It's one of the first best things that I tell any parent. Now I'm at the point in this journey that a friend will call me up, somebody I know from high school, and they'll say, Shannon, I don't know what to do. A really good friend of mine, their child just got diagnosed with autism and I don't know what to do for them. And what I always say is, here's my phone number. You can have them call me when they're ready, but I don't expect a phone call usually for months, because I know it takes months before you're ready to say okay to somebody on the phone. But the other thing that I tell them to do is to find a local parent support group. Now, I'm not talking about a meeting that you go to on a weekly basis necessarily. Now, if you have the capability to do that, you are so far ahead of the game. And I congratulate you, because if you have a babysitter that you can leave your child with, that you feel comfortable with, and can go to a weekly meeting, well, you're going to be brilliant at this. You're going to be aces. But there are a lot of us, myself included, that wasn't going to happen. I didn't have somebody that I could leave my child with that I felt comfortable enough that I could go to someplace on a regular basis. I went to a couple of meetings across a couple of years. That's how my flexibility was, right? So don't feel bad if you're in that same boat. I was in that boat, and you see me sitting here, and I haven't lost all my marbles yet. I know it's questionable. That's true. But in any case, you need to have a support group. There are lots of them online. I know that if you're watching me, you have some sort of internet connection, right? So you have lifelines, multiple lifelines. There are so many different places that you can go to find a local support group, to find that more global support group. One of the first things you can do is go to one of the big, like Yahoo or Google or Cafe Mom, even on Facebook. If you go on Facebook and just put in autism and see what comes up. And then you can be more specific, and if you live in the Austin area, Austin, Texas, you can put in autism, Austin, Texas, and you'll be amazed. Yep, you're going to have to weed through some of them, and you're going to get some things that are advertisements, but you can also put in Austin Autism Parent Support Group. Now, I'm just picking Austin out of the thin air, but wherever you are, it's great to be able to Google those things, and you will find a plethora, don't you love that word, a plethora of choices to choose from. And I always say that it's really ideal to have something that's local and something that's more global. And the reason for that is there's stuff that you need to know that you're gonna have to ask the local people. How do you guys work this? And don't be afraid, especially if it's online. I don't know, there's something nameless, faceless about it. I never used my real name on my local support group. I was always Jem's mama. And that's how everybody knows me. I don't think that anybody knows that I'm Shannon Penrod. I like, my anonymity in the group so that I can ask things and nobody knows, they know I'm Jem's mama. But over the years, sometimes I'll be someplace and I'll meet somebody and I'll talk about my son Jem, and they'll go, wait a second, are you Jem's mama? Yes. And they'll go, you and I had a conversation about, oh, you're Claudia's mama. Okay. And it's a very exciting, it's like meeting a really old friend and putting a face to a name for the first time. Very exciting. But you can use your real name if you want to. There's no rules about that. But being able to ask questions that, you would feel funny about asking a stranger if the circumstances were different, right? How do you pay for this? How do you pay for autism? How do you make this work? And I got to tell you, you need to be asking those questions, because you don't want to reinvent that wheel. Oh, no. But ask them, say, where did you get your funding source from? Because it's different state to state. I could sit here and tell you what it's like in my community, but unfortunately, it's not like that in your community. Maybe it's better that it's not that way in your community. Maybe you have better funding sources, but in any case, we can't waste time, right? Time is effort, and it's money ultimately. So you have your local support group, you ask them questions about the things that are specific to autism locally. How are you funding it? Who did you get your money from? How much money did you get from them? Don't be afraid to ask that. If anybody gets offended, then you know what? Life goes on. I would be shocked to find an autism parent who would be offended by that question. There are some people who will say, you know what? I'm really lucky. My family had money. I've heard people say that, and I go, and they apologize. And I go, don't you apologize for that. I'm thrilled that your family had money. Mine did not, and I could be embarrassed about that, or I can find the way to get help for my child, right? And I chose to find the way to get help for my child. Yes, there was some embarrassment about it, but you got to get past the embarrassment. No one really can afford autism. No one. So don't feel ashamed that you can't. but let's get the help for you. Start with that local group and ask them, how did you, if somebody is doing it there already and they're getting ABA, find out how. And ask a wide variety of people. They're also going to tell you things like, who's the best dentist to go to that's not going to freak out when my child, you know, gets up and runs around the room and needs to take a 5-minute break every 10 minutes. You know, who's the person who's going to cut my child's hair and understand that my child can't have clippers because they have a sensory issue, or the opposite, they can only have clippers because the scissors near their ears freaks them out. Who's the person that I want to talk to at the school who's going to be sympathetic and help me? Which teacher do I want for kindergarten? You know, the questions that really you got to ask to fast track you. If you can save yourself 5 minutes and $5, why wouldn't you? And for those of us who are further along the line, we love to help those of you who are coming behind because we remember what it was like there and somebody helped us. So, and I have yet to meet an autism parent that I didn't really like. You know, people have differences of opinions about different things, but we all get it, right? And if somebody can help you, the main thing is, though, to get a wide variety, a wide sampling locally, so that it's not just getting one person who says, well, you got to do it this way, because that was their experience, right? You want to ask at least 3 or 4 people and go, okay, this person did it this way, this person did it this way, this person did it this way, but you know, I feel like for me, what's going to work is this, and then you go with your gut. But you're so much more informed, you're going to save yourself time, energy, and money. But then the global support group for things that are amazing, that maybe in your local support group, we talked earlier about what's your child's favorite toy, and somebody wrote in and said, a wrinkled up old McDonald's straw. And somebody else wrote in and said, oh my goodness, that was my child a year ago, and now my child is playing with a Woody doll. And now these 2 parents go, okay, we have this in common and can start a conversation. We know that it's not just autism, right? It's autisms. And one of my best friends on the journey through autism, fabulous, fabulous mom. Her son is the exact same age as my son. There's like a 6-month difference, but they went to preschool together and they both have autism spectrum diagnosis, right? They're the same age in the same community, but it presents completely different in both of them. In fact, there are times when I look at my child and I go, I don't get it. I don't get what you're doing. I don't understand why you're having a problem with this particular thing, because I personally don't have a problem with that. And so, you know, I don't know how to help you with this, that, and the other thing. Whereas her child has the same set of fears and phobias that I do. And so I see him and I go, oh, I get it. You know, we'll go to a party and there's just way too many people and way too much going on. And her son and I are the first ones to go out the room, and I'll be standing there with him going, too much for you? And he says, yeah. And I say, too much for me too. And I get it, right? But my child isn't that way. My child's in the party going, woo-hoo, with the other mom, right? Because he's fine with it. But when she leaves to take her child home, he's fine at home. My child is a mess when he leaves a big sensory thing. He can deal with the sensory in the moment, but afterwards he's a mess. It's great for me to have this local friend that I can talk to about a whole bunch of local things, right? But when I want to talk about specifics with my child, I can talk to a mom in New Jersey whose son has a lot of the same things that my son has, and we can compare notes and say, oh, you know, so I did this and this worked, and oh, and I did this and this worked. Really helps me to not feel like I'm alone on the planet, that I'm the only mom who has a child who does this, right? For the mom who had the child with the paper for the straw, you're not the only one. And that's what that global support group does, and lets you know that this is survivable. It really does. So get that support group happening. It will help you. You don't have to be active in it. On my Yahoo group, I signed up for the Daily Digest. So every day I can click and see what the chatter is, and I can save them if it's something that doesn't affect me right now, and I can read through things, and I can say to somebody, I have been there too, it's going to be okay. Or sometimes I get informed about things that I had no idea that were going on. Sometimes there's free stuff, like the tickets to the zoo, and they say, hey, you know, this person gave me 22 tickets to the zoo. Who would like to have some tickets to the zoo? And we get to go to the zoo for free. Many things that my child has been able to go and do because my local support group said, hey, did you know about this? Really, really wonderful. And then there are those times when you get to give help back and say, yeah, I know about that, and here's what worked for us, and you feel better for having shared. It's really, really awesome. So, and extra plus, when you have that local support group, if there's a group that's big enough, you can request a card office to come. Gotta love that. All right, we gotta take a break, then we're gonna come back and finish out the show. Stick with us.
ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, was founded in 2004 by several passionate parents who believe that access to early, effective treatment is vital for individuals with autism. Together with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, the world's leading provider of therapy for autism, this group created ACT Today to do just as the name implies, take action immediately to treat autism spectrum disorders.
A lot of families and parents and even physicians don't yet accept the fact that we are recovering children with autism.
In 2006, inspired by her struggle to get treatment for her young son Wyatt, television producer and author Nancy Alspaugh Jackson and her husband Reed hosted a backyard benefit for the foundation called Denim and Diamonds for Autism. Tens of thousands of dollars were raised, and in 2008, Alspaugh Jackson took the helm of ACT Today as executive director.
This country has to come together to save a generation of children.
With a dedicated board of directors, a small but committed staff called the A-Team as in autism, ACT Today is making a huge difference in the lives of children across the country. Grants that fund programs for behavior therapy, special needs schools and summer camps, medical needs like diagnostic tests and special diets, basic safety equipment such as helmets for children who repetitively bang their heads, and fencing for those who wander, assisted technologies and assistance dogs.
Hi, my name is Max, and I love my iPad too. It's so great. I can take photos.
In 2010, ACT for Military Families became the first national campaign to benefit military children with autism.
I'm Joe Montaigne. As a father of a daughter with autism, I know the challenges that brings.
ACT Today continues to educate and raise national awareness on the need for early and intensive intervention for an epidemic that affects at least 1 in 110 children.
I called on November 1st. And I'm like, how am I going to get notified? How are you going to let me know? And they ended up looking and they informed me that he had received a grant, which was like a blessing from above.
ACT Today, fulfilling its mission of helping families with autism, one child at a time.
I mentioned that there was a quote from Dr. Seuss, and of course our fabulous Emily Goodwin looked it up for me. It's, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. And I never want to add to your stress. Never. That's never what I want to do. You have 8 full-time jobs because you're working with a child on the autism spectrum. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, practitioner, I know that's occupying a lot of your disk space. As a parent and as a former teacher, I get it. But when you get to a point, we always talk about the things that you got to do in the beginning, and I hope you know by now that how essential it is that you get the right amount of quality ABA therapy, that you not settle for less. I know that the world is changing and things are happening for the good, that we're getting autism insurance reform. I just want to send out a cautionary thing to everybody that make sure that it's quality ABA therapy that you're getting. Insist upon it. Insist upon results. Monitor what's happening. Be an active member of the team, because there are more ABA providers that are springing up all over the world. And of course, we just heard of a case, I think, was it in Connecticut or New Hampshire or somewhere in the Northeast, of the woman who was saying that she was a BCBA and was treating children. And then when parents, upon further inspection, found out that she was not a BCBA at all, was not somebody who had trained. So essential that you are cautious and careful about who you're working with and make sure that they are the real deal. Another good reason to have that local support group to ask and say, who is it that's the real deal? But do your own checking too. Let's be honest here, and make sure that you're getting the right amount. I think one of the biggest disappointments that I've been hearing in the last 6 months from so many of you, and it just makes me bonkers, that your child was granted ABA therapy, a child of 3 years old granted ABA therapy for 10 hours a week. And I know that it's a product of this economy, but that is like giving a quarter of a penicillin pill and expecting to get the same result as a full penicillin pill. It does not. 10 hours for a 3-year-old who is on the spectrum is probably not what's appropriate. I can't speak for every single child, but we know that window where we get the best results is between 25 to 40 hours a week. And really, I want to encourage you to fight for nothing less than 30. And that's where you need to start your advocacy, is making sure that your child gets that they not be cheated, and that it's quality ABA therapy. And to that end, if you can band together with some other parents, and your fights are different in different places around the world, right? If your fight, I mentioned Utah earlier, if your fight is in Utah, then you've got some work that you got to do on insurance reform, because it's going to be an uphill battle until you get that, and that's where you got to start. If you've got insurance reform already, but there's no ABA provider, well, you're a prime candidate. Get together with some other families and call the CARD offices and say, we want you here, because I know you're going to get quality ABA therapy then, and they will come. They will come. If you build it in the sense that you build the relationship with the families, they will come. And that's a wonderful thing. If you are someplace and you don't have the insurance reform yet, but you need to start ABA therapy, I just want to remind you again that there's CARD learning and skills. Nobody should be left out anymore. No one should. And if the cost is more than you can afford, believe me, I understand. Would you please do me a favor and write and tell me where you are and that you are not able, so that I can help you to find funding sources to be able to pay for that, because that is so doable. I just can't even tell you. I know it may not seem to you right now that it is, but things come when you least expect them. I think I've told the story once before about probably the worst time that we had. We're at the end of the show, Emily, so I can get emotional now. It was several years ago. It was right before the Christmas holidays, because we celebrate Christmas in my family. We also do the Hanukkah candles, because we have friends that my son likes to do that with. But primarily we celebrate Christmas. And it was the 1st of December, and I sat down to look at our checkbook and see how things were going. And I realized there are medicines that my son needs to take on a regular basis. And I realized that after we paid rent, we did not have enough for groceries, a toy for him for Christmas, and to take care of his essential medications, that there was no way that we were going to be able to fund those 3 things. I wasn't even sure that we were going to be able to fund the 2 things. And it was bad. It was bad, and I sat there and I said, I don't know what to do. And I knew that it wasn't going to get any better, any quicker. So it wasn't just that it was the month of December. January was going to loom too. And I remember just then that a friend of mine called, and I burst into tears with her on the phone. And I said, I don't know. My husband was at work, and my son was having therapy in the other room. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I just don't know what's going to happen. And she said, you know what? Hang on and reach out, because something's going to happen. It's going to be okay. And I said, you know, you don't know that. It isn't always okay, and I don't know what's going to happen. She said, it will be okay. And I hung up the phone, and it wasn't even a split second that went by, and the phone rang, and it was this woman out of the blue who was calling to ask me if she could send me a check as her Christmas present for my mother's cousin, that they like to trade things and give to their favorite nonprofit organizations. And she said, last year I gave a check to Habitat for Humanity for him, and she said, but I've heard him talking about your son, and she'd actually attended a fundraiser that we were at where I'd been talking about my son, and she said, I would like to write you a check for things that you need for him. Would that be okay? Oh, would that be okay? Yeah. And I said, I want to be you when I grow up. You know? And I got to tell you that, like, it's so important, though, that we acknowledge that we need help. I think it opens up whatever it opens up, and the help shows up. And if the help isn't showing up, would you please do me the favor and take action and write me here at the show, send me an email and tell me what's going on, what it is you need, because we are aware of funding sources that are able to help people in different ways. I can't guarantee you results, but I can guarantee you that I'll take it to somebody who has the potential to get you results. So don't be alone in this. Do not be alone. I'm here with you, and not only that, there's a whole bunch more people that are here with you. Stick with us. There's the email address. Send me an email. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's preventing you from getting ABA therapy. If it's that you got a group of parents together and you're going to lead a demonstration because you're going to push for insurance reform, let us know. We'll cover it. Okay? If it's that you don't know how to talk to your insurance provider and they're telling you no, when you see that there's a law and you know that you're supposed to get it, call us. I'll get an insurance person on your case dealing with it, right? If there's nobody there, there's no ABA, there's no insurance, please do skills. There's lots of other ways to get a hold of us too, and Emily's going to cycle through some of those in these last few minutes. You can call us. We love to have you call. You can Skype us. You can Facebook us. You can tweet us. But of course, the email always is there for you as well. We love having conversations with you guys. I got to tell you, when I go and when I step outside the studio and I say to somebody, hey, you know, we had somebody write in today and say this, they are so thrilled and excited about the things, because even if it's something that you write in and you say, I need help, they're thrilled and excited, because then they're about figuring out, okay, what are we going to do to help this person? They genuinely love to be helpful. So, and I have huge debt to pay, because had it not been for the people who helped me, my son would not be where he is. And he is 9 and in 3rd grade, about to go to 4th grade with a ton of friends. I mentioned we had his birthday party the other night, and the doorbell would ring and he would run to the door. Somebody would be there. Hi, welcome to my house. Come on into the party. And so glad you came. And you know, do you want to see the rocket we're about to shoot off? So happy and thrilled with the progress that he has made as a result of the ABA therapy that we got here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And when I tell you, I want that for you. I'm not kidding around. I want that for you. Your child deserves it every bit as much as my child deserved it. But you got to be the one to say, somebody help me. Say it to your neighbor who has a child with autism. Say it to me. Let's say it to the experts. Say it to your politicians. And when all of our voices say it together, somebody listens. And we've seen that time and time again. We have to find on this show time to play. There's a wonderful short little clip about what happened in Arizona, which was the first state to get insurance reform. It's so inspirational that you see the parents and you see the legislators all being interviewed and saying, I didn't think it was going to happen. I really didn't. I figured we would go to the Hill and we would have this conversation, but that it wasn't going to happen this year, but that maybe it would happen next year. And it was worthwhile to go, even though I really didn't think it was going to happen. And then enough people thought, okay, it's worthwhile to talk about it because it has to happen sometime, that it happened that year. And now we have 30 states that have insurance reform. It starts with one person and then another person and then another person. We can get this done. We really can. But join me on this journey. All right, this show's going to end, but tomorrow we're going to have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, which is really a treat, you guys. He'll be talking with us about research, and that's always a wonderful thing. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m., but he'll be on at 11 o'clock. Until then, you know, there are lots of things. You can be watching the show on all the other sites that we watch it, watch rebroadcasts, search topics, all of those wonderful things. But we will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. And until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.